that PRRD wants?
Um, if I know how this government operates, usually things have been set in motion, and I don't think Congress will move if there's no some sort of agreement with the executive department.
Exactly, exactly. And that's what they're forgetting, right? That's what they're forgetting. So these guys who are, I mean, they say they are DDS, they say they are pro Duterte, but the result is their actions are going against the very campaign promises of the president that we support and that we
I have a
voted for.
totally different outlook about being DDS. That's what's nice about the president support base. Eh. It's not homogenous, and
I
not
know it's I know it's a big tent. It's a big tent. I mean, we used to even have communists in it,
yep.
diba? We used to have the leftists and the communists in it, and there are still some there who are, but a lot of them who are with the NPA, of course, they left, diba? Nanguntra na sila karon. But it was a big tent. But at the end of the day, to be a true supporter, you're supporting also the goals of the I know what does this particular administration want to do, right? There
Mm.
are certain reforms that they want to set up which are for our benefit. So these constitutional reforms that we've always wanted to happen, these were promises of the government. This was in fact the centerpiece of PRRD's campaign. So he
Right.
said federalism and all these other reforms, centerpiece na siya. Even more so than the war on drugs. So, I mean, anyway, let's see,
I,
I have the link now, so I'll share this.
I've always been a pragmatist kasi, bay. So I don't really like, if I think, kumbaga, I play the cards that I'm dealt with. So when
No, I
something,
agree.
right?
I
Uh,
know, and I'm also like that. But of course, I also don't stop from expressing where
mm,
I'm coming from. That
disappointment, frustration,
diba?
yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, look, I see us being left behind by other countries, and I'm saying, fuck this shit. Let's fix it now. Like, stop putting sand in the motors and the engine and destroying whatever we need to fix. Come on, fix it. Help
Yeah.
us.
Mm.
Diba? That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, yeah, that's
Sige.
true. Part of the cards we're dealt with are we have people in our team of so people who call themselves DDS who are going against the reforms that we need to do. But I'm saying, look, I mean, there's a point at which we have to put our foot down and say, look, guys, enough of that. Don't go against what we need to do because we have very little time left.
All right. Sige, bye. Let's talk about that tonight.
Indeed.
Uh, send you the link.
Yep. I've sent it to the correct movement.
All
Let's
right.
try to put it to the other groups that I have as well.
Okay. You ready?
Yep.
Yan na.
Ready. Ready.
Hello, guys. Welcome to Istoryang Futbolero. My name's Ron Poblete. With me tonight, the usual partner in crime when talking about constitutional reform, Mr. Orion Perez Doom Doom from Singapore. Ating makabayan at matipunong kababayan na taga Singapore ay kasama natin ngayon sa Istoryang Futbolero. Welcome to the program and thank you so much for watching. And we have the early birds, Orion. As usual, we're going to greet them right now. Si Lorimar Redaha, Jason Chua, si Don Pelonio, si Lorenzo Pescador, and we have Madelina Valerio as well, and our madam from Japan. I can't read.
I think it's Maria Teresa Lopez, I think.
There you go, Maria Teresa Lopez, of course. Thank you for watching it. And one of the mainstays of Correct Movement, Lawrence Chua, and also Jovan Oremaliv is watching Istoryang Futbolero tonight. And somebody from Taiwan, si Jimrod Holak and Ronan Dayot as well. Cool. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. Ryan, how are you? How's your week been?
It's pretty busy at work. So yeah, pretty busy at work, and then I've seen a few people, some of our supposedly allies, going taking jabs at some of the reforms we're supposed to be fighting for together.
Yeah, I get you, man. I get the
Yeah,
frustration. It's like having it's like you were able to set up a team for, let's say, if you have a football team, right, and then
yeah,
you've picked the players, and then the objective is to win, and then all of a sudden one of them wants to score more or wants the ball more than you, or they don't
yeah,
like the
yeah,
game plan, and then and we along the way we would have misunderstandings and disunity, what would appear to be disunity within the group because they have a different way of looking at the game. And
yeah,
that's
yeah,
exactly where we're at right now. I told you, Kanino, Ryan, it's very natural for a very big group. We have to admit that the so-called DDS, the Duterte diehard supporters, it's such a huge group. And even the ones that support the president don't call themselves DDS. They're just supporters, but they're not like they wouldn't call themselves DDS. Some of them would actually sometimes be shy about it if they're a supporter of the administration. And the thing is, it spills over to obviously the advocacies that we have, the large umbrella being reforms. And we've been pushing for constitutional reform for the longest time as a basic thing that we need to do to really reach our goals, or at the very least, to see the president's mandate, the things that he promised in 2016, come to fruition before 2022. Part of them having a parliamentary federal form of government. Siyempre, hindi rin natin maiwasan, Orion, na meron tayong mga realities on the ground na, so to speak. We have different personalities that are part of this process. And there's so many moving parts, especially when it comes to the reforms that are federal form of government. Siyempre, hindi natin maiwasan, Orion. Nag-echo ako. Galing yun. Realities on the ground.
parang may echo nga eh.
Yeah, is that your ano? Wait.
It's probably mine.
That are part of this.
Okay, nawala. Okay, ayos na. Hello? Parang nawala naman yung sound ko. I don't hear you. Naka-mute ka. Naka-mute
Okay.
ka. Oh, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So
you're back. Okay.
as I was saying, there is just so many things that we need to do. Up to now, it's still an uphill battle. Because well, first of all, it's good news because the Congress have passed the resolution
Or
by
rather, the House. I mean, let's
the
be
House.
clear about that. The House.
Okay, the
Because
House have,
Congress is both houses. So,
and the Senate, yeah.
yeah.
But Congress has already passed a resolution. The House has passed a resolution 60 by the vote of 66, 3 and 3, right?
63, 3 and 3.
3 3. 63 3.
63 and then 3 against and then 3 abstained.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay. And there are some from the 63 who have reservations, right? They said yes, but with how do they call the there's like how do they describe like a vote where it's not 100%, but they
Oh
say
yeah, with reservations, yeah, yeah.
reservations, right?
But I think it's like this, at least they were able to pass that, and then now there's going to be the point where there's a bigger discussion with a bigger group of people, and maybe there will be also that one, which includes the Senate, right? So the Senate will also be there, giving their inputs, and unfortunately, the Senate has more people there who don't like reforms.
Mm.
But there are few of them all in all, right? There's a few people in the Senate compared to the House. I'm really hoping that at the end of the day, the Senate will have people who are for the reforms who will say, let's just go with deletion, not just, unless otherwise provided by law. And that hopefully there's going to be another set of resource persons who will come in again and talk about Why is it better to actually delete these these provisions rather than just having the workaround clause of unless otherwise provided by law? So both of them are like a step in the right direction, right? But one is clearly better than the other, and one is
Mm.
way more effective than the other. And the one that's really effective is if you totally delete them from the Constitution. But I understand why they needed to do that initial, like, let's start off first with unless otherwise provided by law, because I think that gives them a bigger chance to start off positive with a wider group of people in the house. Because if you start off with saying delete now, is well, let's delete it, then there's going to be people who are going to say, what? Oh, how? What does that mean? But if they start off with a more compromise approach first, and then they come up with all these resource persons, the resource persons can say, actually, it's better to just remove it. And then they realize, oh, nga, no, yeah, I think if we remove it, we send a much stronger signal that we're really really open to having foreign investors come in. That's
You,
what
you
I
know
hope,
what it,
hope
you
for.
know what you know what it is, Orion. It's like inviting a friend of yours who is known to your set of friends or your family to be, a drug addict who
Yeah.
just recently got reformed or who recently got came back from rehab, and now you're asking this guy to sort of like man your newly opened restaurant. But the rest of the family members are very cautious about it. Like, are you sure you want him to be? It's that guy that recently reformed or rehabilitated guy is actually charter change or constitutional reform, and they have this degree of distrust with the people behind it, diba? Like they're not sure. Sigurado ka iwan natin sa Kongreso yung uh, sa kanila yung decision kung ano yung ilalagay na isa sa batas para mabago yung economic provision. Yun yung pinaka ano talaga sticking point, I think, by some of the even our own brothers and sisters who support the president. They don't trust the Congress. And even the ones who are actually from the opposing side are saying the same thing. Do you actually trust it? Diba? People like Monsod are saying, sa tingin mo, pwede nating pagkatiwalaan ang Kongreso para baguhin ang mga provision na to? And then they're attacking syempre itong compromise na tinatawag. I think for me, Orion, yung unless otherwise provided by law is a compromise between
It
parties.
is a compromise.
Diba?
It is a
Na para lang
compromise.
things can
Yeah.
get done. Kasi it's been, so many administrations have tried to change the constitution to no avail because of the fact that there's always like somebody saying, no, it's not the time. This is just for term extensions. And now finally, economic na lang ha? Economic
Mm.
provisions na lang gusto nating baguhin. Tapos, ganito lang, very simple. Ilalagay lang natin itong provision, ay itong ano na to, extra line na unless otherwise provided by law, dependent na lang sa Congress kung anong babaguhin at ano yung bawal. And I think ang contention ng ating kaibigan na si Thinking Pinoy, if we were watching his live stream earlier, sabi niya, bakit pa isasali ang land? Ayaw ko, gusto okay lang sa akin,
Ayun nga
baguhin
eh. Ang
tanggalin
problema
mo.
niya, hindi
Diba?
niya pinakinggan o hindi niya alam ano yung news. Mas parang ang end result kasi parang lumabas diyan, nakalimutan niya na naging decided na ng house na wala na yung land, hindi kasama yun, 'di ba? Parang ang laking news nga niyan eh, paulit-ulit yung na-feature sa news na hindi kasama ang land. So,
Pero
parang bakit na
sinasabi
naman
niya,
niya sinabi 'yon? Bakit niya ulit sinabi 'yon? Yun na nga ang hindi na nga kasama 'yun eh, 'di ba?
direct
Hindi na nga
actually yung
kaya.
sinabi niya kanina, Orion, yung, correct me if I'm wrong, ang directly kinikriticize niya si Speaker Velasco kasi parang last minute tinatry pa rin yata ipasok yung provision on land ownership doon sa final copy or sa final draft ng yung para sa resolution ng Congress. And yung act alone of him trying to do it or seeing it yung land ownership ay doon siya asar na asar. ayaw niya, bakit ba pinipilit pa rin yung
No,
land
actually,
ownership?
no, actually, no. That's not what he's talking about. If you really listen to what he was talking about,
No, no.
he was angry. Why is it dun sa RBH2 from the
Hmm.
beginning? Because it's in the beginning na nagkaroon ng kasama yung parang lahat ng clauses that have anything to do with economics, isama natin dito sa panukala na lalagyan ng unless otherwise provided by law. So, naging kasama yung land doon. Now, they had to do it broad-based so that it could still be talked about. And because kasama dyan sina Joey Salceda, kasama dyan sina Stella Kimbo, na sinasabing pag-usapan natin para at least malaman ng mga tao na hindi naman masama kung magkaroon ng land ownership ang
Hmm.
foreigners. Kasi
Hmm.
pwede naman nating lagyan ng limits yun. Yun
Hmm.
yung main point ng mga yan. At pati na rin sina Dr. Raul Fabella, Dr. Bernie Villegas, si Dr. Jerry Sikat, they were all saying that there's nothing wrong with land ownership. Especially if you want, we can always say, pag foreigner ka, hindi ka pwedeng maging may-ari ng mas malaki pa sa ganito kalaking.
Hmm.
Kumbaga, ito lang ang pwede mong bilhin na para sa bahay hanggang sa size lang ng mansion. Yung parang ganoon, parang mansion. Pero asyenda, hindi pwede. Yung mga lupain na sobrang dami, hindi pwede.
Tsaka anything na, no,
Siguro,
right?
diba?
Anything na that can cause for land speculation. Kasi
Yun
may
nga,
mga,
yeah.
di
Isa
ba,
yun
may
sa
mga,
mga masadong importanteng pinag-usapan doon sa hearing. Sabi nga nung mga ekonomista na pwede naman natin gawan ng mga batas na yung mga foreign investor na bibili ng lupa, allowed lang sila kung immediately after nila binili yan, siguro within 5 months, nag-build sila ng factory o ng opisina. Kumbaga, yun yung sinasabi ko na parang pwede namang gawa ng ganun eh. Pwede namang gawa ng mga restrictions na ganyan na hindi pwedeng maging may-ari ka ng lupa, hindi ka pwedeng bumili ng lupa na hindi mo gagawa ng kahit ano. Parang kumbaga bumili ka lang para maghintay lang na tumaas ang presyo. Bawal 'yon.
alam mo, Orion, dapat i-address natin yung talagang issue dito eh. Kasi, alam mo, they come from a good place naman itong mga criticism coming from our friends from Luminous, even si Thinking Pinoy, yung mga comments nila about land ownership. And this breeds from, this comes from a very,
I'll tell you one thing where it comes from. It comes from
a playful,
University of the Philippines. It comes
no,
from
no,
the UP. Because UP is a breeding ground of leftists and so-called nationalists. Ay nako, buti na lang may UP School of Economics na merong mga tao dyan na sensible. Tulad
pero
nila Jerry
Orion,
Sikat, sa kanila Raul
beyond what you're
Fabella
saying,
paminsan.
beyond what you're saying, kasi yung mga leftists naman, they're just mouthing anything that they think will resonate with people. But generally speaking kasi, over the last 3 decades, ang na-cultivate kasi sa isipan ng mga tao, sa ating publiko, sa ating
Sa
taong
mga Pilipinong hindi nakapaglabas ng bansa.
Oo nga,
Importante
wait, wait.
masabi yan. Sa mga Pilipinong
Wait.
hindi nakakapaglabas ng bansa at hindi exposed sa anong mga best practices ng ibang mga bansa.
No, wait.
Yun ang pinagkaiba ko sa kanila. Kasi nakatira ako sa ibang bansa, nakikita ko ano yung mga tamang ginagawa ng ibang bansa. Sila, hindi nila nakikita yan. Putang ina, lagi lang nila nakikita kung yung mga makikitid nilang utak, yun na lang. Nakakainis eh.
Hindi,
Puro
pero
na lang, diba?
I'm trying to address kasi like yung kumbaga kung saan nanggagaling itong tinatawag na distrust. I mean, tanggalin na lang natin sa equation itong mga kaliwa, no? Kasi gaya ng sabi ko sa'yo, they just take advantage of what people are thinking at any given time and thinking about their politics.
I do want to interject here that part of the reason for why some people are heavily influenced by that is because when they were inside that particular institution, UP, that was the prevailing notion. That was the prevailing notion that was being spread by those fucking idiot leftists and communists. Kumbaga, doon sa loob ng UP, yun ang laging bine-brainwash sa mga tao. So kahit hindi ka necessarily kasama doon sa mga kawalang hilangang mga mawista na yan, yun pa rin ang laging pinag-uusapan, ay bawal ang mga foreigner maging may-ari ng lupa, blah blah blah, yung mga ganyan. So,
pero yung underlying
itong mga taong tong kausap na, itong mga akala natin DDS din, puro sila taga doon eh. Ano yung commonality nila? Puro sila taga UP. Puro sila taga UP. Yun ang isang putang inang institusyon na nakasira sa Pilipinas eh. Yung putragis na wrong info lagi, yun na lang, wrong info lagi ang ang
Hindi,
pinapairal nila. Yun yung nakakainis. Wrong info.
Orion,
Have they even compared the facts about what's going on in the Philippines with what's happening in other countries? No. They don't know shit about what's going on outside the Philippines. They don't. They're not doing
Orion,
research.
my
Puro lang
point,
sila kung
my point
ano yung sa
is,
Pilipinas lang na bina-brainwash sa mga tao. Yun lang ang meron sa kanila eh. Oh, foreigners are bad. Foreigners should not own land. Yun lang
yeah,
ang naiisip nila. That's where they're
Orion,
coming from.
Orion, my point is, hindi, they don't trust our lawmakers, period. Ang ano natin dyan, ang tama ka naman eh. Wala naman problema sa FDIs or removing FDIs or even yung merits of having yung land ownership restrictions removed from the Constitution. Meron ding logic behind it. And there's ways of supporting that notion, no? But I think ang problema natin, Orion, sa ating mga kababayan, kaya tuloy madali lang silang mabuyo or mapagsabihan na, ay, hindi tama para sa atin yan. Dahil inherent sa atin na hindi i-trust ang ating mga kongresista. Kaya pag nagbigay sila, gumawa sila ng paraan na baguhin ang konstitusyon, kahit ano man yan, madali lang sabihin sa kanila, sa mga tao, uy, huwag kayong maniwala dyan. Kasi hindi, kapakanan ninyo ang iniisip. Yun ang parating sinasabi nila. Now, that's the problem, Orion. Even the ones who support the president, inherent sa kanila, if it's not the president saying it, meron silang hint of distrust and suspicion sa ginagawa ng kung sino man yan, kagaya ni Speaker Velasco or anybody na proponent of changing the Constitution. That's why, kagaya sabi natin, discussion natin, conversation natin kanina, Orion, di ba? Na ang DDS is not homogeneous.
It's not homogeneous. It's not monolithic. It's diverse, and it's
diverse.
basically a big tent coalition. However, I'm saying we're now at the very last year. We're at the very last. But basically, home stretch na tayo ngayon. Matatapos na yung term. Now we need to get some of the most important stuff done. And now that it's getting done, parang sinisira na naman nila. 'Di ba? Tapos I can see some of the comments here. There's some commenters here na nandiyan pa rin sa makalumang pag-iisip. Yung mga taong hindi pa siguro nakalabas ng bansa, walang kaalam-alam kung ano yung mga ginagawa ng ibang bansa para umunlad sila. Hindi nila alam eh. Kontra na sila ng kontra. Ito may nagsasabi, gusto ni Velasco ibenta ang Pilipinas. Yun ang sinasabi niya. Yung ba ang nangyayari? Hindi naman eh. In fact, wala akong pakialam kay Velasco. Hindi ko naman siya kilala. Hindi naman ako pumapanig sa kanya. Wala naman akong pinapanigan. Ang punto ko, ang konstitusyon ideally dapat wala doon sa loob ng konstitusyon ang mga economic restrictions. In fact, even land ownership should not even be in the constitution. That's in the law. In other countries, they put it in the law, and then that can be changed. No, just like the death penalty, that's in the law, not in the constitution. So, yung situation ng ownership of land, dapat actually flexible tayo such that we can also allow. This is my ideal situation, ha. Kung pwede lang, i-allow pa rin natin kung pwede lang, i-allow ang mga talagang seryosong mga kumpanya na magbibigay ng napakaraming trabaho para sa maraming Pilipino ng abilidad na yung kanilang lote na saan sila nagtayo ng pabrika, maging kanila. At least hindi naman natin pinag-uusapan hacienda eh. Hindi naman natin pinag-uusapan mga tracts of land, yung sobrang daming lupain. Pinag-uusapan natin, maliit na area na nandun ang kanilang warehouse, kanilang pabrika, kanilang opisina, yung ganun. At least man lang mag-appreciate ng konti yung land value. At least if they decide to let's say after 50 years, 100 years, tapos nag-close down yung business, they can sell off the land again. Something like that. I mean, they can get something out of the development that they put into that land. That's one of the things that the economists who were all resource persons in the recent House hearing were talking about. Sabi nga nila, it should be allowed na foreigners can own some land, but not all foreigners are allowed. We will restrict it para yun lamang mga talagang seryoso lang na lumikha ng trabaho ay bibigyan ng abilidad na bumili. Dito sa Singapore, merong ganyan na generally pwede actually maging may-ari ng lupa ang mga foreigner dito, pero merong permission from the government. Ganun siya. So we could do something like that, you know. Hindi yung sobrang closed sa lahat na talagang hindi pwede. Ngayon, I agree with Secretary Dominguez. Sabi ni Secretary Dominguez na since sobra namang tawag nito, sobrang emotional ng issue ng land, edi
Wag
sige,
isama.
wag na lang muna. Oo, parang so ako okay din ako sa ganyan na parang sige, para lang maipasa yung pagkakaroon ng full-blown constitutional, yung bang pwede yung mga foreign investor na pumasok, as in para sa akin na dapat tanggalin. Hindi lang yung lalagyan mo ng unless otherwise. Tanggalin talaga, i-zero, i-delete mo. Tapos, i-retain na lang natin yung sa land para hindi masyadong matakot yung mga Pilipino na hindi wala na kaming lupa. Oh, sige, unahan muna natin na magkaroon ng ganyan para dumami ang mga trabaho para sa mga Pilipino kasi yun naman talaga ang importante. I'm just saying noong nagkaroon ng hearing, pinabukas ni na Stella Kimbo tsaka ni na Joy Salceda at yung ibang mga proponents doon na
Yung
let's talk
conversation
about
about
it.
it.
Let's open the conversation para lumabas yung mga pros and cons na maglabasan yung mga para bang pwede naman pala natin lagyan ng ng restriction sa mga gaano kalaki yung lote na pwedeng bilhin ng foreigner. Yung mga ganun or para bang yun lamang pwedeng makapagbili ng lupa ay yung mga taong agad-agad na magse-set up doon ng gusali, ng pabrika or whatever. So, hindi pwede yung land speculation na
Dapat rin
may
nila
limit, 'di ba?
dapat rin maintindihan, Orion, kasi yung rationale kung bakit i-consider ang land ownership. Kasi first of all, when a business tries to set up here in the Philippines, ang unang isipin nila when they're renting or leasing land is there guarantees that I won't be kicked out if I set up my business here and I've invested so much money. Since I don't own the land, baka may chance na baka biglang magbago ang administrasyon at tanggalin.
Yes, yun na nga eh.
So,
Yes,
yung
yes.
mga risk ngayon, syempre pina-factor in ng mga negosyante. But if they had the option to actually buy land for their business, let's say if they want to manufacture here and they want to own the land that they're going to be, putting up their manufacturing plant, mas malaking plus yun para sa kanila. Kaya siguro yung mga kagaya ni Stella Kimbo, Congresswoman Stella Kimbo, and Congressman Salceda, kinukonsider nila yung ownership of land. Problema dyan, syempre, may psychology involved dyan eh. Alam mo naman tayo, medyo insecure ang Pilipino when it comes
Ang Pilipino is not a thinking race. We are so far, unfortunately, not so much a thinking race. We're a feeling race. We're an emotional race. Pinapairal lagi ang emosyon kaysa sa utak, kaysa sa logic, kaysa sa 'di ba? Sa pag-analyze. 'Yun ang problema natin, which I understand naman. That's why sa akin, sige, okay lang. Sige, lagyan muna natin for the time being, maybe for the next 10 years, basta't mapasa muna yung pagtatanggal. Para sa akin kailangan tanggalin, erase, hindi lang lalagyan ng circumvention clause. Erase talaga. Pag i-erase natin, sige, lagyan muna natin ng clause na hindi pwede yung foreigner na may-ari ng lupa. Okay lang, as a start. Sige. Later on, so the first 10 years, magkakaroon ng maraming mga foreign investors. Makikita ngayon agad-agad ng mga Pilipino, gumanda mga buhay natin dahil dumami ang mga trabaho. And then, finally, some of these investors will say, you know what, part of the reason why hindi kami nakapag-invest ng ganung kalaki is because may pagka-insecure yung situation. Hindi namin alam kung baka i-kick out kami ng yung landlord namin, ganyan. So, we're not sure about putting in that much money. But if we were allowed to own the land where we set up our factory, then we might be more willing to set up to hire more people, set up more facilities. And that's at the point where Filipinos will say, sige na, papasukin na natin ang mga investors na maging may-ari din ng at least man lang yung lupang sinetapan nila ng mga pabrika o ng opisina. Yun lang. And then in fact, pag yung kunyari, yung may-ari ng kumpanya or yung mga executive na foreigner, syempre pag may pumasok na foreign company, during the first decade, usually there's going to be may mga mga foreigner na nandyan. And some of them want to live in the Philippines. So they should also be allowed to at least own a lot. House and lot. Hindi naman natin pinag-uusapan asyenda eh. Hindi naman natin pinag-uusapan yung mga sobrang daming mga lupain. Pinag-uusapan lang natin dito is enough land para sa magandang bahay, 'di ba? Yung ganon. Pero ang
Ah,
problema kasi pati yun hindi pwede. Yun ang
i-address natin,
problema.
i-address din natin yung mga concern ng ating mga kaibigan about land ownership. Like for example, ang kanilang assumption is that if you're a foreign entity, you have the resources to buy as much land as you can if they are allowed to own land here in the Philippines.
Okay,
So
and that's what I was saying earlier. That's what I said just now, just a few minutes ago. I said it very clearly. We can always set up laws that say,
yes,
sorry, kung hindi ka Filipino, may limit ka sa pagbili ng lupa. You can only buy this much land and that's it. Or maybe 1 or 2 lots and that's it. But you cannot buy this sobrang dami. Wala, hindi pwede. So it's
kaso
that
Ryan,
simple. We can set that up.
kung ikaw yung kongresista, kaya sigurado ilalagay mo yung provision na yun sa mga pag nag-legislate ka na ng batas about land ownership or even removing the economic restrictions on our constitution. Kasi magkakaroon ka na ng implementing laws on how to go about for direct investment. Paano kung hindi ikaw? Tapos itong mga kongresista. Kasi, again, going back to what I said kanina, yung distrust, will Congress actually enact laws that will benefit us? Hindi ba sila magkakautaw sa mga foreign investors na papasok na, oh, kami bahala sa inyo. Kunyari, let's say, mga European companies na papasok or American companies na medyo business savvy, sasabihin, oh, we'll take care of you. If you allow us to own this much, don't. And then they will end up lobbying Congress, and they will end up controlling much
And
of our
then
economy.
the congressmen will be found out, and then no one will vote for them. So I mean, we now are in an era where we have the internet. We now have social media. So it is easy na ibulgar kung ano yung mga kalokohang ginagawa ng mga kongresistang hindi gumagawa ng tama. So ano bang wala na tayo sa panahon na kakaunti lang yung nakakaalam ng news. Ngayon, meron na tayong internet eh. So madaling mabulgar yung mga mali. Yun yung nakakalimutan na napakaraming mga tao. Yun nga ang problema kasi talaga nandun pa rin sa Stone Age pa rin ang marami ang pag-iisip ng napakaraming mga kumukontra sa reforma. Stone Age pa rin eh. Ngayon nasa age of internet na nga tayo eh. Doon pa rin sila sa parang
Orion,
Stone Age pa rin sila.
let's just say meron tayong batas na nililimitahan lang ang kunyari ang hektarya na pwedeng bilhin ng foreigner. Paano kunyari, let's say 100,000 foreigners all of a sudden decide to buy land for personal use here in the Philippines? Obviously,
Kaya nga, it's very clear, and I said that very clearly earlier already, that not just anyone will be allowed to own land. So there's going to be a law that says you cannot own more than this. Secondly, not just any foreigner can buy land. So there's going to be basically this whole point na hindi, para bang kumbaga, may butas ng karayom na kinakailangan mong daanan para makabili ka ng land. At kung nabigyan ka ng pahintulot na maging may-ari ng lupa, hanggang dito ka lang, ganito lang kalaki pwede Ganon kasimple. Hindi naman natin sinasabi na 100,000 na marami. Hindi naman pwedeng ganon eh. Pasensya na, nahawa ako kay Easy Meal eh. Panay ang pakinig ko sa kanya. Kaya, galing, pare, tangina. Galing.
Pero
Ang husay.
Huwag mo siyang tatawagin na DDS. Ayaw niya yun.
Hindi, ang sinasabi niya, porket sinabi kong negatibo, DDS na agad, ganun. Parang yun lang naman ang sinasabi niya. Hindi naman siya galit na tinawag siyang ganun.
Let's read some of the messages here, Orion, para gumanda yung ating balitaktakan na tinatawag dito sa Istoryang Futbolero. Susie Pai, Nor Azuki Vetil, through UAE to be exact. Kaya ang daming nagpupunta doon for work. Magaling sila mag-handle ng mga foreign investors. This is from a Facebook user. Ilang porsyento ba ng Singapore ang pag-aari ng foreign investors? 80%? They can rent but cannot own.
Okay, bakit Facebook owner yan? Bakit Facebook user yan? Siguro naman yung taong yan isang tao na siguro naka-block yata or something.
Hindi,
Kasi ganito.
Meron tayong mga mga viewers na from another group, hindi lumalabas yung pangalan pero nandito sila sa
Okay. So
oh,
anyway, yung
relax.
tao yan, kaya hindi, kasi natin, hindi natin alam ang pangalan eh. Mukha siya ng
Sino pa
mukhang tao naka-black.
si Delfino Boyet, yun ang pangalan niya.
Yung
Si
pangalan niya.
Delfino.
Okay. So ganito, ang Singapore, nung nagsimula ang Singapore, halos lahat ng mga big companies ay mga foreign companies.
Mhm.
Ngayon, unti-unti syempre dumami yung mga taong may pera dahil dumami ang mga foreign investors, dumami ang mga Singaporean na may pera. Yumaman ng Singapore, generally speaking, dahil dun sa mga foreign investors. At the same time, dahil dumami ang pera ng Singapore, dumami rin ang mga Singaporean na yumaman. At yung mga Singaporean na yumaman, later on sila mismo naging naging investors din. So unti-unti dumami rin ang mga local investors.
Hmm.
Ngayon, bakit sila naging local investors? Bakit sila yumaman? Dahil in the first place, nagkaroon ng maraming foreign investor. Kung walang foreign investor na natiling mga taga-tinda lang ng taho yung mga taong yan. Kasi yun dati talaga sa 1950s and 1960s, yung mga tao dito sa Singapore, puro lang mga kargador, nagtataho, yung ganun lang, coolies lang sila ang tawag diyan, no? Tapos yung alam niyo yung mga jinrickshaw, yung mga yung parang cart na ganyan tapos may taong nakaupo dun sa likod. Ganun, yung sa parang Chinese style na yung ganyan, yung yun nga cart. Tapos imbis na kabayo, tao ang nagdadala. Jinrickshaw, yun ang trabaho ng napakaraming mga tao dito sa Singapore. Okay? Pero yumaman ang mga tao sa Singapore dahil dumami ang mga foreign investors. Ngayon, that was before na sobrang dami talaga, 60%, 70%, almost 80% at a certain point in time, siguro sa 70s. Okay? But unti-unti, ang Singaporeans din, yumayaman din. And now, lumalabas na hindi na ganun karami ang foreign investor. I mean like, marami ng mga local investors ang Singapore. Dahil sa yumaman ang maraming mga local na tao. Yun din ang mangyayari sa Pilipinas. Kapag hindi naman ibig sabihin yan ay forever ang mga Pilipino ay pulubi at mahirap. Hindi. Ibig sabihin, ang maraming mga ordinaryong Pilipino, magsisimula yan as nagtatrabaho sa factory, nagtatrabaho sa empleyado sa loob ng opisina, pero yung iba dyan, tataas, aangat, magiging bisor, magiging manager. Ang iba dyan, aakyat sa pagiging CEO. At yung iba dyan, magkakaroon ng sariling kumpanya. So yung mga ibang tao dyan, may mga rags to riches din na yung mga dating mahirap na magiging mayaman, sila rin ay magiging may-ari ng kumpanya. So hindi ibig sabihin na porket ang mga foreigner lang ang may pera, hindi. Bakit ba laging iniisip na maraming mga Pilipino na hindi nila kaya na maging may-ari din ng mga negosyo? Bakit laging iniisip na maraming mga Pilipino na hindi natin kaya? Ay, lagi na lang ganun ang mangyayari. Sila lagi ang may pera, tayo wala.
Alam mo,
Ay, ang mga foreigner lagi ang may pera para bumili ng lupa, tayo wala. Not true. Kapag dumami ang mga tao may trabaho, ang mga Pilipino magkakaroon ng pera para bumili ng lupa.
Going back
so
to
ano
the
yung problema nila?
Pero
diba?
Ryan, let me just go back to the idea behind the economic provisions from the 1987 Constitution. At that time, they thought that we should protect the Filipino businessmen, the Filipino businesses. We have to grow them so we should limit the ownership as a solution to making sure that happens. The problem is, ang Filipino, meron tayong ugali na gusto natin empleyado lang tayo. Can you agree? Do you agree? Now we don't want to take the risk of putting up our own business because we're sigurista tayo. Gusto natin na merong steady income. And if you remember, I don't know this generation, but before our parents used to tell us, "Oh, mag-aral ka ng mabuti ha, maging abogado ka, maging doktor ka." When you think about it, all these engineer, you always there's always a person that you have to you are conditioned to become an employee, pursuing all these different careers. Pagiging nurse, 'di ba? Hindi ka siguro mga Filipino-Chinese in-encourage maging negosyante. Pero generally sa ating mga Pilipino, we're encouraged to become a professional. That's the thing. Kaya nga yung kahit na maganda yung intention ng 1987 Constitution to make sure that it's Filipino first, ang nangyari dyan, yung mga negosyante lang mag-isip, ang yumaman. Yung the rest of us, we are dependent on them to employ us.
Yeah,
Problema, we don't have enough Filipino companies to employ everyone. Diba? That's
indeed,
why
indeed.
hundreds of thousands or millions have already moved to other countries to be employed. That's why we need, kahit even the big businesses, Filipino businesses, agree that we should remove these provisions because we need more foreign investors. Why will it benefit the Filipino businessman? Because the more Filipinos who are employed, no, notwithstanding who it is employing them, is good for business
For
because
everyone, yes.
more people can afford to buy their products. Diba?
Yes, and that's what the late John Gokongwei was saying, which is why I mean some people were saying, Sir Orion, nasaan ang chippy mo? Well, nakalimutan kong kunin yung chippy ko. Pero yung chippy ko, kaya ako kumakain ng chippy kasi pag ano ko 'yan, pagpapasalamat ko 'yan sa the late John Gokongwei. Kasi si John Gokongwei, big businessman siya, pero isa siya sa mga dating lagi nagsasabi nung buhay pa siya na kailangan natin ng constitutional reform. Kailangan natin magkaroon ng parliamentary system, kailangan natin ng federalism, at kailangan din na talaga natin na maging bukas sa pagpasok ng foreign investors. At tinanong siya, bakit gusto mo ng mga foreign investors? Sabi niya, bakit? Lahat ba ng mga foreign investor na yan magiging kakompetensya ko? Hindi naman lahat ah. Marami
Totoo.
dyan sa iba, iba dyan, magiging supplier ko, iba dyan, magiging customer ko. Tapos marami dyan sa kanilang mga empleyado, magiging customer ko, bumibili ng
Tama.
C2, bibili ng chippy, bibili ng ticket ng Cebu Pacific para lumipad sa ibang parte ng Pilipinas. I mean, ganyan kasi ang tunay na negosyante. Win-win ang pag-iisip. Problema kasi ng Pilipinas, marami sa mga so-called negosyante ng Pilipinas ay hindi talaga tunay na negosyante. Ano ba sila? Oligarch sila, asendero sila. Ang tunay nilang pinanggalingan ay pagiging landowners. Kumbaga yung isip nila lagi is finite. Para bang you cannot have, kumbaga kasi ang pera kasi, you can have money na not necessarily kumuha ka ng pera galing sa ibang tao. Ang land kasi, pag dumami ang land mo, ibig sabihin, meron kang land na kinuha galing sa iba. Kasi limited lang ang land.
Yeah.
Pero ang pera, ang ideas ng business, ganyan, that's infinite. So, ang pag-iisip ng mga negosyante is win-win usually. Let's do something that will benefit me and benefit you and benefit everyone else as much as possible. Whereas landowners kasi, yun nga, para bang ang feeling nila is, ay, mawawalan ako kapag ikaw dumami yung sayo, ibig sabihin, ako siguro na lamangan. Yun yung pag-iisip ng maraming mga oligarchs. And it was the oligarchs, unfortunately, who set up the 1987 Constitution. And sadly, the paradigm that they were talking about na, yung mga South Korea and Japan, also Taiwan, sasabihin nila, puro yung mga malalamig na bansa, cold countries, na hindi naman katulad ng mga Pilipino at ng mga Malay, mga tropical countries, yung ugali. Kasi yung mga cold countries, mas mataas ang savings rate nila. Yung tawag nito, usually, they are more likely to go into entrepreneurship, to be your own boss, to save money, etc. Whereas maraming mga countries in the tropical areas tend to be more laid back, easygoing, at nagwawaldas ng pera. So, that's the reason why in order for countries in the tropical regions to be able to move up fast, kinakailangan nila na maging bukas sa pagpasok ng foreign investor. Unlike yung mga malalamig na bansa na kaya nila na magkaroon ng locally generated or domestically generated funds and in capital. Yun yung pinagkaiba.
Sabi ni Ryan Mico Del Mindo, pwede basta may kasama na local yung palengke, na convenience store doon, Pinoy ang may-ari. Di ko lang alam kung paano hatian. I think he's pertaining to a certain country that has a certain setup na advantageous naman. Sabi ni Lawrence Chua, a very huge percentage of Filipino businesses are MSMEs, so there's just enough companies to employ fellow Filipinos, thus the need for FDIs. And sabi ni JJ, Kohima, bigyan lang kung ilan lang pwede magkaroon at wag marami, allow muna. Tama si Sir Orion, hindi marami at dadaan sa karayom ang magkakaroon ng lupa dito sa mga foreigners. Pero ano Orion, no, parang ano knee-jerk reaction kaagad yung nakikita natin sa mga taong ayaw na baguhin ng konstitusyon. Lalong-lalo na pag pinapag-usapan, parang ayaw nila talagang makinig na hindi kasama yung lupa as much as possible. Pero pag pinag-usapan yung lupa, kaagad silang nagre-react dahil parang, uy, ito na yung na sinasabi natin na gusto nilang may agenda sila. Gusto nilang ibenta yung lupa natin sa mga Chinese. Kasi 'di ba, paborito nila yung mga Chinese na na gawing i-villainize ang mga Chinese sa ginagawa nila, no? Ah so madaling yun yung para sa kanila kasi lalo-lalo ng mga politician na na nilalabanan tong reforma sa isip nila madaling madala ang Pilipino sa sentimiento. Pag
Kaya
pinag-usapan.
nga kasi nga hindi thinking people ang maraming Pilipino eh. Feeling people, emotions lagi. Pinapaira lagi yung emosyon, hindi yung pag-iisip, hindi lohika, hindi analysis. Yun ang
Mm.
problema.
Sabi ni Rockford Maunes, Filipinos should invest a little to learn the idea of much liberalized economy. Nandiyan naman si Google. Sabi ni pero pare, you have to be realistic, no? Lahat ng marami sa ating mga Pilipino ay hindi talaga mahilig, hindi matyaga mag-research.
Ngayon
Ah,
nga.
kung ano lang yung convenient. Hindi lang naman tayo mga Pilipino ang ganoon. Kahit ang mga Amerikano, kitang-kita mo man ang mga Amerikano, madaling very masyado silang impressionistic yung
Madaling mauto.
may makita lang sila galing sa kaibigan nila na pinost about, let's say, about kay Trump or about sa opposition, sa mga liberal, ay naniniwala kagad sila. 'Di ba ang nila ngayon, ang pinakamalaking debate nila Orion is whether or not there is climate change. Meron mga climate change deniers na padalan mo lang ng kunyari galing daw sa scientist na hindi daw umiinit ang temperatura ng mundo, ay sasabihin kagad nila, oh, tinan mo, sinungaling talaga yung mga na yan. Naniniwala kagad sila kung may pagpadala sa kanila ng post. So very impressionable yung mga Amerikano. So much, I think most of the general population of a country, because they are not really, like us, Orion, who are political junkies who would really read up on stuff and understand things better. They will easily, they are very passive when it comes to information. If you have friends who share certain data na kahit na hindi verified or validated, we believe right away that it's true, even though you are not sure about the source. That's why when we talk about constitutional reform or tinatawag nilang chacha, the mere mention of the word chacha, immediately there is distrust, misconception that prevails. And that's easily the kumbaga, it's hard for you to convince them otherwise na, no, it's not there's no agenda. We really need to change the constitution. Or sometimes, Orion, ang kailang argument is, ako okay naman ako na baguhin yung economic provisions, pero sinasama kasi nila yung lupa, ganyan kagad sasabihin.
Oh, yan ang style ni Nery Colmenares eh. Hindi naman ako kontra sa constitutional reform sa Chacha. Ang problema ko kasi yung mga karga ng mga ibang mga politiko, meron silang
Yun.
nilalagay,
Oo.
mga ganyan sila. So,
Oo.
they will always try to say that we're not against reform, but then we have issues with this small little thing. And just by casting doubt on that small little thing, nasisira na yung buong reforma. And that's the style of many of the people who say they are DDS but are going against reforms, because unfortunately, yung ginagawa nila, kahit siguro sabihin natin baka hindi nila sinasadya, pero yun ang epekto. Ang epekto ay hindi maipapasa yung mismong reforma na gusto ni PRRD, which if we recall, when he was campaigning for the presidency, he was talking about allowing foreign investors to come in and set up yung mga business islands na sinasabi niya. Do you remember those business islands? You remember that concept? Business islands is actually similar to treaty ports, or there is a Paul Romer, I think is the name of this economist in the US. and he was talking about this thing called charter cities, basically. So
Mm.
charter cities are basically cities in a country that would be defined by a different set of rules from the the country is used to. So if this
Mm.
country is used to a certain way of doing things, Paul, I think it's Paul Romer is his name. He said, let's have cities in within a country that are governed according to the rules of a
Mm.
successful country, so
Mm.
that place can attract investors to come in. So that's
Why
what
that
that's
sounds
what it
familiar,
is.
Orion. That's something that China isn't China doing that right
China
now.
was yeah, China is doing that, especially when they started with Shenzhen. So
Shenzhen.
Shenzhen so Shenzhen was what they started when they were trying to copy what Singapore was doing. So remember, this was in the 1970s, late 1979. After basically 1978, nag-visit ng Singapore
Mm.
si Deng Xiaoping, pumunta sa Singapore, and he was impressed with Singapore. Nakita niya, uy, ang daming foreign investor. Parang kaya pala ang daming may trabaho, kaya pala mayaman ng Singapore. Sabi niya, try ko kaya sa China ito. And that's why he set up yung Shenzhen. Sabi niya, gawa lang ako ng test area. So he set up this area na yung rules niya kakaiba. Ginagaya niya yung style ng Singapore, na bukas sa foreign investors. Tapos, nung yumaman siya, sabi na niya, oh, yun, tingnan nyo, gumagana pala itong sinabi ko. So, i-replicate na natin to the rest of China. And now, China is a superpower because the whole of China has copied what Shenzhen started with, which was based on Singapore and Hong Kong.
Orion,
So,
sa tingin mo ba, ang pinaka problema natin as Filipinos is masyado tayong matalino na analysis paralysis ang usual problem natin
yeah,
na
well, I hope it
there's
was, I was wishing it was because masyado matalino, but it is akala nila at matalino sila. Yung iba dyan, ha? Yung bang nagmamarunong, yung nagkukunwaring marunong sila, tapos ang daming mga sat-sat na wala naman silang research dun sa mga sinasabi nila, kumukontra sila dun sa may research. Ito naman paminsan yung ibang tao na may research, masyadong mabait, humihinto sila sa sinasabi nila, sige, they let the others talk. Pero yung mga others na yan, wala naman sinasabi, wala namang proof yung sinasabi nila. So that is the biggest problem. That's why ako now, as someone who knows, I am not going to allow this particular side of the conversation to be silenced by those people who know nothing about the topic.
right.
That's the reason why I'm a bit of a parang war freak ako ngayon sa mga ganyan.
Medyo ano ka na, you're sick and tired of you know of parang just letting things lie when
I'm sick and tired of the Philippines being left behind. In my several companies I've worked for, we've always been talking about the regional, para bang the regional outlook. And always, the Philippines is always looked at as like, parang walang project doon. Laging may project sa Indonesia, may project sa Malaysia, may project sa Thailand. Bakit sa Pilipinas halos wala? Small item projects lang ang meron. So parang dinadalan sa mga reseller. So in my current company, it's the same thing. It's like the same pattern all throughout. Lagi na lang yung mga big projects nasa ibang bansa, sa Pilipinas wala. Tapos the projects are too small, kaya
right.
doon na lang sa mga reseller na lang pinapadala, sa small resellers na lang ang nag-handle ng mga yan. So parang never kami may chance na makauwi sa Pilipinas para gumawa ng project kasi wala eh.
Sabi ni
Yun talaga.
Orion, ni Arem Burgos, I think it's not bad to let foreign investors own land here basta legal yung stay nila. Like they're immigrant visa holders or business visa holders and pay taxes.
And
First
indeed,
world,
yes.
first world countries let foreign investors buy land to develop basta legal yung stay nila and they pay taxes. That's from
Yes, that's
Arem
exactly.
Burgos.
Tama yan. That's exactly what I was saying. Na parang hindi naman lahat ng tao. Unang-una, for example, wag natin i-allow na yung tao na naka-tourist visa lang, turista, bibili ng lupa. No! Don't allow that. So, ang pwede natin gawin, for example, I'll give an example of paano maging pwede ang isang foreigner na maging may-ari ng lote, ha? Hindi lupain, ha? Lote. So, sabihin natin, may isang Pilipino na may asawa siyang Pilipina. Tapos may anak sila na Pilipino. Okay? Tapos for the longest time, laging kumbaga yung land nila is always nakapangalan sa babae, 'di ba? Sometimes may namamatay sa breast cancer, whatever. So ngayon, yung pangalan nito, yung yung asawa na dating may-ari ng lupa namatay na. So ngayon si lalaki na ama nung batang Pilipino, wala na siya, para bang wala siyang papel para makabili kumbaga maging may-ari ng lupa. So parang dapat man lang yung taong siguro ang foreigner na ang anak niya ay Filipino citizen, siguro naman ay mabigyan ng chance na maging may-ari ng lupa.
Mhm.
Kasi proven naman na may anak siya na Pilipino o Pilipina, 'di ba? So pwede niyang maipasa 'yon kapag siya naman ang namatay, mapapas niya 'yon sa kanyang anak. So yung little things like that, you can make laws that allow certain people, not just any foreigner, but only certain people to own certain sizes of land. Tapos yun nga, yung mga kunyari si Bill Gates gustong mag-set up ng napakalaking kumpanya sa Pilipinas, tapos gusto niya mag-retire sa Pilipinas. Why not allow him to own land kung magse-set up siya ng malaking kumpanya na ang dami, tens of thousands of Filipinos ang mabibigyan ng trabaho? Parang dapat may ganyan eh. Yung problema kasi natin, talagang hindi pwede. So, wala. Di ba? Yun ang sinasabi ko.
Pero then again, Orion, we don't mind that we don't include the land ownership issue sa proposals. I think
Yeah.
ang best way to describe what's been going on sa ating constitutional reform campaign is that we're trying to build a bridge. It's not solid yet. It's not concrete. It's like siguro bamboo lang. Pero makakatawid tayo.
Nakakatawid. Yes.
Makakatawid tayo. Pero initially lang naman yan. But
Initially
eventually,
lang naman. Yeah.
once things improve, we have the proper resources, then we can build a proper bridge. Yun yung idea behind the provision na pinopropose ng Congress ngayon na unless otherwise provided by law.
Yes.
Very, ano ba yan? Napakano naman yan? Parang hindi pinag-isipan. Isisingit lang yung linya na yan sa constitution para pwedeng baguhin. Hindi para ano ba yan? Dapat mag-isip sila ng mas magandang pamparaan. Siguro sabi nga ni Orion, i-delete na lang yung buong Article 12. Pero sa totoo lang hindi ganoon kabilis. Kung hindi naman natin gagawa ng paraan ngayong panahon ni Presidente Duterte, ay baka hindi na mangyari kasi pabago-bago. Alam mo naman yung 'di ba? Pag pinag-usapan
akin nga Ron. So sa akin is so ito yung mga gusto ko talaga, 'di ba? Gusto ko sana na wala na talaga yung mga restrictions na yan, no? Deleted. Pero being a realist, sinasabi ko, okay, I'm willing to compromise. Basta't kahit konting pagbabago is better than walang pagbabago. So yun kaya yung sinasabi ko na sige na nga, i-accept na lang natin yan. Ngayon, meron pang mga iba dyan na kahit na ba naka-compromise position na nga tayo, meron pa ring mga wag yan kasi yan yung lupa blah blah blah. Tapos wala na nga yung lupa sa usapan. Ilalagay pa rin nila dun sa loob ng kanilang narrative yung kasama yung lupa kahit na ba hindi na. So yun yung punto ko na parang nananabutahe, 'di ba? Parang nananabutahe. Parang yung kay Thinking Pinoy na hindi naman niya parang bang hindi niya as if nakalimutan niya na sinabi na nga na hindi na isasama yung lupa bakit na naman siya kumontra, 'di ba? Yun lang ang point ko eh.
Again, Orion, masyadong malawak at malalim ang usapan pag constitution ang pinapag-usapan, and it's not exactly the easiest topic to talk about with your friends or your family. So expect people to have a very shallow understanding of what it's all about, and it's easy to discourage people from supporting it if they have a very shallow understanding. I think that's what the problem is. And if somebody who doesn't like the way it's being done, which I told you, di ba? I mean, kaibigan natin sila Thinking Pinoy, sila Luminous, sa kanila kasi parang feeling nila masyadong minadali at hindi pinag-isipan yung pinupush ngayon sa Kongreso. we just have to respect their opinion about that. But as far as getting things done, very important to have the first step. First step is
Exactly, and
to have the
that's
opening.
what I've been trying to tell these people. That's what I've been trying to tell these people. And then this friend of yours, he's not my friend, George, for example, he's not a fucking friend of mine. Shit, that guy, what does he do? He's fucking hostile towards me. For 3 fucking days, I never went against this piece of shit. What does he do? Puro na lang insulto sa akin. Tangina. Tapos si Edwin Hamora then tries to intervene and say, "George, wag ka nang masyadong ganyan kay Orion." Of course you know who George is. What's his real name, right? But anyway, so this fucking idiot, ah, sinabihan pa si parang tinawag pa niya si Edwin na idiot daw dahil gusto niyang iawat yung away. Ay putang ina, doon na ako nagano. Doon na ako gumante. And yung doon sa paggaganti, siya naman yung napikon. Ito yung nakakatawa eh. Siya yung kumbaga una siya sa kanya mga panginginsulto. Ako, kalma lang ako eh. Hindi naman ako nanginginsulto eh. Nakatutok lang ako sa topic of constitutional reform. Pero puro siya yung mga gago, putang ina mo, gago. Puro siya mga ganon. Oh, ngayon na inexpose ko yung pagiging tanga niya at pagka-ignorante niya sa constitutional reform at sa economics na klarong-klaro wala siyang kalam-alam. Anong ginawa niya? Binlock niya ako. Tapos maya-maya, pinasuspend pa niya ako sa Facebook.
Akala ko ba tapos na itong
Pikon!
ano na to? Tapos
Kaya
na
ang
itong
point ko,
problema na to, Orion.
wala pa, hindi pa natatapos dahil hindi pa siya nag-apologize sa akin. Yung putang inang yan, tang inang yan. Sasabihin pa niya, libel, putang ina mo, gago ka, George. Wala kang kalam-alam kung anong libel. Tang ina, what kind of a fucking lawyer are you fucking George? You're not a lawyer, you're a fucking liar, George. That's what you are, George.
All right,
Fucking idiot.
easy bro, easy bro, easy. Sabi ni Nino Eagles, Filipino families are fighting for lands. Nagpapatayan kung sino makakakuha ng lupa na mamanahin. Kaya with foreign land ownership, ganun din ang thinking. Alam mo, may point yan, Ryan, Alam mo, nasa rin, deeply rooted rin yung problema ng Pilipino na nagiging problema rin sa kanilang mga pamilya na nagkakaroon ng konting greed when talking about money, talking about possessions, material things, properties. How many families do you know of that has have experience?
Putang ina, halos lahat ng pamilya. Halos lahat ng pamilya. Ay nako. But this is the thing, no? This is the thing I want to say. Sana kasi maintindihan ng marami mga Pilipino na hindi kapag nag-change ang sitwasyon na maging industrialisado ang Pilipinas at dumami ang mga trabaho, hindi na magiging lupa ang batayan ng pagiging mayaman. Kaya nga ang mga taong katulad ni na sino yan? For example, nung time na si Bill Gates ang pinakamayamang tao dati, ha? Wala siya masyadong lupa. Ay as in yung lupa lang niya ay yung lupa nung kanyang bahay dun sa Medina, dun sa may Seattle, dun sa may Puget Sound area. So, yun lang ang lupa niya. Wala siyang ibang lupa. Yung iba, kunyari, yung saan tinatayo ang Microsoft, hindi naman kanya yun. Kasi that's under the company which he shares with other people. So, it's not under his name. Pero the only thing that he had under his name back then was just that place where his mansion was situated. Now, sa dami ng lupa, yung mga Ayala, mas maraming lupa. Yung maraming ibang mga pamilya dyan sa Pilipinas, mas maraming lupa. Pero sino yung mas mayaman? Si Bill Gates. Hindi naman lupa ang batayan ng kanyang pagiging mayaman, kundi yung Microsoft stock at yung kanyang mga investments. Yun ang pinanggalingan ng kanyang pagiging mayaman. Ang problema kasi ng maraming Pilipino, lagi nila lupa ang iniisip. Ang problema, ang lupa, kung hindi naman talaga nagagamit, wala naman silang ginagawa sa lupa na yan, hindi naman nila napapakinabangan. Ano nangyayari? Sometimes yung lupa na yan, binebenta na lang nila, tapos yung perang nakuha nila dun sa pagbebenta, ipanggagamit nila sa pagbayad sa recruiter na, sige, ako, yung anak ko, mag-nurse dyan, o yung anak kong isa, magsisiman, si ganito, basta ganyan. Tapos yan yung mga yan, nag-OFW lahat sila, tapos nagpapadala na ng pera. Kumbaga, yung lupa naging useless. Kasi wala naman palang silbi. Kasi wala naman silang ginagawa sa lupa. Inaararo ba nila? Inaano ba nila yan? Inaaruga ba nila yung lupa? Ginagamit ba nila yan para sa pagsasaka? Ginagamit ba yan para yung may mga kumpanya na mag-set up ng pabrika doon? Wala silang ginagawa sa lupa. Nakatenga lang eh. Nakatiwangwang lang yung lupa. Walang nangyayari. Nasasayang lang ang lupa. Useless lang din. 'Di ba? Mas importante yung magkaroon ng trabaho. Ang problema kasi na napakarami mga Pilipino, lagi na lang iniisip yung dapat may lupa para may pera. Hindi eh. Mali yun eh. Ang nangyayari nga sa ibang bansa, nagiging liability nga yung meron kang lupa. Kasi kung may lupa ka na hindi mo naman ginagamit, every year ka nagbabayad ng tax na malaki kung hindi mo ginagamit. Pero sa Pilipinas, parang halos di ganun ka-importante yung tax na yan. Nangyayari, hold on to land lang ang ginagawa ng maraming mga Pilipino. Kahit wala naman sila nakukuha doon. O ano nangyayari, di ba? Tingnan mo yung carp. Nangyari, may mga tao dyan na may mga tao na nag-save ng pera tapos nakapagbili sila ng parang asyenda, no? Tapos, they were working it and they were leasing some parts of it to tenant farmers. Tapos nagkaroon bigla ng carp. Ngayon yung carp na yan, nangyari, di hinati-hati yung lupa, binibigay-bigay sa ibang mga tawag nito, yung mga tenant farmers. Ngayon, yung mga tenant farmers, when they tried to be their own boss, na kumbaga, hindi na sila parang nakasalalay dun sa parang may-ari ng lupa talaga, wala silang economies of scale. Ang nangyari, nalugi pa sila dun sa kanilang, kasi sobrang liit ng lupa eh. Di ba? So, wala silang economies of scale. Ang nangyari, binenta ulit nila yung lupa na yon na dating pinakarp dun sa kanila. Di ba? Na-allocate na nga sa kanila. Binenta nila ulit dun sa dating may-ari. Tapos, yun, nag-OFW na lang yung mga miyembro ng pamilya. So, wala rin pala.
Yun din ang problema dyan, Orion, kasi yung carp, although napaka ganda nung objective nung batas na yun, gusto na i-redistribute yung land sa ating mga farmers. Problema, karamihan nating mga farmers are not capable of putting up their own business or producing enough for their livelihood. And they're not given enough support also to till the land. So may mga issues na ganyan na kailangan pa rin ayusin. Yung sinasabi nila na it's gonna be straightforward, na bigyan ka lang ng lupa at kaya mo ng di ba? Kaya mo nang i-manage yung sarili mong negosyo, pwede ka nang magkumita, pero hindi ganoon kadali. Marami rin sa ating mga farmers na hindi naman rin ganoon ka kulang yung abilidad para to sustain themselves. So may mga ganyang bagay na hindi talaga na hindi pwede mga simplistic na approach.
Hindi lahat ng tao, sa totoo lang, hindi lahat ng tao ay gustong maging magsasaka. Maraming tao na magsasaka ay napilitan lang na maging magsasaka dahil wala silang ibang magawa. Pero kung nagkataon na may mga mas magandang, kumbaga may mga trabaho doon sa mga pabrika na disente magbigay ng sweldo, mas maganda ang magiging buhay nila doon kaysa sa nagiging magsasaka sila na kumbaga paminsan kapag yung ani mababa, wala sila, kawawa sila, zero sila, 'di ba? So, yun kasi ang pagiging magsasaka sa totoo lang is para kang self-employed businessman sa totoo lang, 'di ba? Hindi ka naman empleyado eh. Ang nangyayari sa pagiging magsasaka dapat matinik ka dun sa mga accounting. Syempre kailangan alam mo yung magkano yun na yung expenditure mo, magkano yung kinikita mo, etc. Marami kang ganun eh. Pero hindi lahat ng tao mahilig diyan o marunong diyan. So, yun ang nagiging problema kapag ina-assume ng mga tao lahat ng Pilipino dapat maging magsasaka o dapat sila maging may-ari ng sariling lupa. Ang kailangan ng mga Pilipino ay trabahong disente. At para magkaroon ng maraming trabahong disente, paramihin natin ng mga investor. At walang pakialam ng mga ordinaryong Pilipino kung sino ang may-ari ng kumpanya. Kaya nga ang dami-dami natin mga OFW na nasa ibang bansa na ang pinagtatrabahuan namin iba-iba yung mga may-ari. Hindi naman mga Pilipino yung mga amo namin eh. 'Di ba? So, Yun, ako, I work for a European multinational company. So, gano, other people, they work for a Japanese company. Other people work for an, I don't know, Aramco, which is an Arab and, well, partly American siguro. But di ba,
Sabi
hindi
ni
naman
ano,
Pilipino eh.
sabi ni Jeremy Orion, kapag di ka nakabayad ng 10 years, may gagawin ng City Hall sa property. May three beses na magbibigay ng chance o warning for delinquency. Tapos nung pwede na ilito o marimata ang property. Okay.
So,
Um,
hindi, ibig sabihin nga niyan, ibig sabihin niyan, sa totoo lang, land ownership is a liability if you're not using the land properly, if you're not using the land
mm,
productively.
mm,
So Filipinos have to fucking get rid of that stupid concept that we all need to have land. Because if you don't need land anyway, why? What for? 'Di ba? Yun yung problema kasi ang problema, yun nga, okay, mali ako nung sinabi kong Stone Age ang maraming Pilipino mag-isip. Ang pinanggalingan ng pag-iisip ng maraming mga Pilipino ay yung feudal manorial age. Feudalism. Land
y- y-
ownership pa rin.
sabi ni Miko Del Mindo, cultural yan kasi ganyan ang mga magulang dati. Napasa, nasa anak, pati sa anak, nung anak yung sinasabi kahit dating panahon, importante ang lupa. Ngayon, ibang panahon na, digital na ang yaman. Um, have you seen the movie, have you been watching Netflix lately, Orion?
Yeah, yeah.
Have you seen White Tiger?
No, I haven't seen White Tiger yet.
The White Tiger.
What's that about?
Is this India, there's similarities to there's that caste system na tinatawag
Oh,
sa
yeah,
India.
yeah. Caste
So
system,
bale
yeah.
caste system, so bale rich and poor,
Yeah.
basically that's the same problem that we have here in the Philippines. Obviously, we have like what 5 or 2% who basically controls the economy here in the Philippines, and 80% are pretty much at the borderline poverty level. And there are around, if correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, 3 million ba ang underemployed, or 30 million Filipinos are underemployed? Is it 30 or
I'm
3?
actually thinking that it's 30. To be absolutely honest, I really honestly think it's around 30. I
Hmm.
think the vast majority of Filipinos who are employed in the Philippines are actually underemployed. Because as I told you, when I was working in Microsoft Philippines before, doing a certain kind of job, a systems engineer job, and then I moved to to Microsoft Singapore doing the exact same systems engineer job. Immediately, parang times 3, almost times 4 basically ang naging sweldo ko. Na yun, pareho lang ang ginagawa ko. Parang doon ko na-realize, shit, underemployed pala ako nung nasa Pilipinas ako. Kasi parang ang baba ng sweldo ko. It's like,
Pero
ganun
ano,
eh.
ang tipong big takeaway ko from watching White Tiger, uh, I caught the kumbaga I ano eh, I started I began to understand kung ano yung situation na similar sa atin sa India, na karamihan ng ating mga kababayan or karamihan ng tao sa isang bansa are they're happy just to become servants, or happy to be, in a very uh, they don't foresee their lives to be a lot better than where they are. And ang problema dyan is madali tayong makontento. Karamihan ng mga kababayan natin na nasa, yun na nga, nasa informal sector, yung mga mahihirap, okay na sa kanila yung isang kahig, isang tuka na buhay. At hindi nila naiisip na pwede pa, there's a better way. And the main character in this movie realizes in the end, or I mean, in the middle of the movie, that you know what, people have been taking advantage of me. My kindness, my being subservient to other people. Na isipin mo, happiness lang niya, Orion, is to serve his master. It's unbelievable. And unfortunately, there's a large chunk of our population who are like that here in the Philippines.
Yeah,
Na
yeah,
they don't see their lives to be as good as someone who lives in Singapore, because they don't even understand how it's like to live in Singapore. You know what I mean? They don't see the alternative. So if you talk about something that requires a little bit of change in mindset, that becomes a problem because they're just busy living their lives, the way they know it. Na, I'm content driving a tricycle, supporting a family with noodles, and then some rice that's given by NFA.
Actually, that's fine. That's
Mm.
fine until you get hit by some emergency. That's the
Mm.
problem eh.
Yeah.
Which is which is a different situation dun sa mga taong nasa bansang malalamig. Kasi dun sa bansang mga malalamig, nandun yung kasi every year meron silang winter. Eh dahil sa winter, kinakailangan nilang may savings sila lagi. They have to make sure na meron silang either firewood and food stored for the winter because during winter, hindi ka naman nakakapag-ani ng pagkain. Wala ka naman you cannot go hunting kasi yung mga animals diyan, mga hayop diyan nakatawag diyan hibernation, 'di ba? So
Mm.
parang kumbaga, parang you have no choice but to save. So that's why yung mga bansang mga malalamig, generally speaking, they've mostly done better than countries in the tropics because in the tropics, kahit pabanjing-banjing ka lang, happy-go-lucky ka, okay lang kahit wala naman akong savings kasi total kung nagutom ako, pwede naman akong mangisda. O yan, may isda ako. Pwede naman din akong humanap ng mga ibon diyan, titiradurin ko lang. Ayan, may pagkain na ako. Pero sa cold countries, wala silang ganyan. Kasi mamamatay ka pag malamig. Kasi kung wala kang mamamatay ka sa lamig dahil sa sobra siyang malamig. Ayan, wala. Kung wala kang fuel, wala kang firewood, patay ka. Wala kang pagkain na nakastore, patay
I,
ka.
we've actually talked about this so many times already, and
Yeah.
I actually believe people might take it for granted that we live in a tropical country, where food is, relatively abundant, diba? Anybody na kung nasa ano ka man, sasabihin mo, mahirap ang buhay sa probinsya, pero madaling makakuha ng pagkain kahit papaano. Pwede ka pa rin hindi ka magugutom. In other words, Orion, kasi wala ngang winter. Pag winter, wala ka talagang matatanim. 'Di ba? Pwede
Mm.
ka kumain ng ng saging. Pag wala kang pambili ng pagkain, 'di ba? Pwede kang mamitas ng saging, pwede ka
Oo, oo.
mangingisda. Pero kung nakatira ka sa isang bansa na may winter, ay talagang gugutumin ka. Kaya
Patay ka
yung
talaga.
personalidad ng mga nakatira sa tropical country ay iba sa mga nakatira sa bansa na may four seasons. Dahil doon,
Yes.
survival. At siguro kaya nahihirapan rin tayo na maging mas siguro more proactive in changing our situation is because we feel that we can survive anyway, so why do I need to do something about it? And it doesn't help also that going back earlier in our discussion, there is a inherent distrust for our politicians. Sabi ni Marivic Solis, Orion, yung ibang foreigners, mas gusto daw nila freelancers na Pilipino. Kasi narinig ko minsan nabanggit ng isang American blogger na hindi daw
Yes, I've seen
ugali
this.
ng Pilipino na magtayo ng business, so they trust them na hindi nila kukompetensyahin one day
Yes,
ang employer nila.
I've watched that. I've watched
If
that.
they work for e-commerce niche, Filipinos just work daw for them, kaya di sila nag-aalala. Tapos masipag at magaling ang English skills. Tama ka dyan na
Tumpak,
Marivic.
tumpak,
Yeah.
tumpak si Marivic kasi I've also watched that particular interview
Mm.
of basically there were these guys who were interviewing this other guy about outsourcing in the Philippines. So this guy who was being asked, he said, I actually like getting people from the Philippines because unlike in other countries, like maybe for example India,
Mm.
when I train the people in India, ang nangyayari daw, these people, they become good at it and then they start their own business. They
Mm.
start their own, like, what the stuff that they learned, okay, after 1 year, alis na sila. Tapos sometimes nagiging kompetensya pa sila nung Amerikano. Whereas yung
Mm.
mga Pilipino, sabi nga niya, and in fact, the way he said it was, I'm gonna say this, the main advantage of of hiring people in the Philippines is, sabi niya, ironically, it's because many Filipinos are not very entrepreneurial. Sabi niya. That's exactly how he said it.
mm, mm.
They're not very entrepreneurial, unlike say people from India, where if you train them, like not long from now, they'll become your competition. But
Mm.
like in the Philippines, they remain working for you. You're not going to be afraid that these people that you're training right now will end up becoming your competition.
Right.
Sabi
Yeah.
niya. So that's one of the advantages though of
Totoo
hiring in
yan.
the Philippines.
Totoo yan. Sabi ni Ronaldo Coutinho, baka dyan mag-no ang mga ibang senador tapos idadahilan nila kasama kasi ang lupa. Nako, may pangpuntos na ang anti-reform ng mga senador. Malamang mapapag-usapan yan. Pero kung
Pag-uusapan, no.
ang joint resolution ng both houses will be, if ever the Senate or the proponents for constitutional reform in the Senate will adopt the version of the House without the land provision being touched, I think may chance na ma-approve siguro yan, Ryan, no? Kahit na merong
Yeah,
mga
yeah, yeah.
ni
Yeah,
Drilon, ni
yeah, yeah.
Pangilinan, ni Ontiveros, um, ilang percent ba ang kailangan na mag-yes sa Senado? It's a bit more
Dapat three-fourths eh. Dapat
three-fourths,
three-fourths.
di ba? Sa Congress wala tayong problema. Laki nung 90% ang nag-yes, pero dito sa Senado kailangan ng 17 senators ba or 15?
18. You need 18
18 out of
senators. Yeah.
24. Okay,
So
18.
18. You need 18. Yeah, because it's basically 24 divided by 4 times 3. So you got 18.
Si Dirilon sa atin, no? Dirilon, si Gordon is pro economic chacha,
He's
no?
saying it's not the timing's not right.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Maraming mga ganyan no nagsasabi ng hindi naman ako against pero the timing is not right.
That's
I
good.
hate that. That's another parang that's another mistake, you know? What the heck? It's first of all, we've made it very clear now nothing else will be touched. Only the economic provision. So what the heck is this fear? You know what's really exasperating na nakakainis talaga diyan eh sasabihin nila na natatakot pag guguluhin na naman yung mga sistema diyan ganyan. Parang wala na ngang oras. We are now what? Um we are I think 15 months away from the elections. We're basically 15 months away from the elections.
Mm.
And 15 months is not enough time to talk about things like term extensions and all these other mga extra stuff. The only time we have right now for the next few months is really to talk about removing or at least easing yung 60-40 and other anti-foreign direct investors. Yun lang. Yun na lang ang kaya natin pag-usapan in this limited amount of time. Yun ngang federalism at parliamentary, wala na nga tayong chance na mapag-usapan yan dahil sobrang komplikado ng mga yan na yung 15 months na remaining is not enough to tackle it. So, yun. In fact, hindi nga 50, I would in fact say it's just probably 10 months that we have left because what we need, ang mangyayari kasi dito, I say 10 months kasi dapat by November or December na na yan, na pagbotohan na yan ng both houses na itra-transmit na yan as a change request. And then we need to have 6 months, 5 to 6 months of enough time to campaign for the plebiscite.
For the plebiscite happening simultaneously.
Yes. So we need enough time. So kung klarong-klaro naman na wala tayong enough, we don't have enough time na isingit pa natin yung extra reforms. So doon pa lang sa fact na konti na lang ang oras natin, yun ang assurance na talagang walang ibang pwedeng mapasok. In fact, ano bang takot nila? Kasi kung sabihin natin, just in case may na-insert na hindi nila gusto, na hindi gusto ng taong bayan, may plebiscite pa naman eh. So pag nasa plebiscite, pag hindi natin gusto, di no. Diba? Tangina naman
Yun ang dapat, kaya nga I think masyado nilang, ang kanilang strategy is to nip it in the bud. Sa sa ating mga mambabatas pa lang, they want them to use their prerogative in killing the proposal. But the truth of it all, talaga, Orion, I mean, people should understand, the viewers, you are supposed to be the ones agreeing to a change in the constitution or not. You have to let Congress allow you to have that power, to give you that power to change, to make changes that's needed, diba? On the constitution. So this is a democratic exercise that that Congress no, should allow people to practice. I mean, this is your right as citizens, no, to have a say. Ultimately, the power emanates from the people, and the Constitution reflects the wants and the aspirations of our people, diba? If it doesn't reflect your aspirations, it shouldn't be there anymore. So dapat talaga yung mga tao ay magkakaroon ng ng ma-empower sa proseso na to. Sabi ni Lorimer Orion, any thoughts on the Manila mayor's naglalabi ba si Mayor Isko against Chacha?
Ang narinig ko, hindi ko pa nababasa yung article dun na kung ano ba yung parang sinasabi nila na not enough time daw eh. Which I think is talagang kabobohan. Like, I mean, honestly, it's the stupidest thing for people to say that it's not the time because it's COVID. It's precisely because of COVID na kinakailangan natin ang reformang ito. Exactly because of COVID. Kasi ang COVID ang naging rason kung bakit ang daming Pilipinong nawalan ng trabaho. And dahil nawalan na sila ng trabaho, ano ngayon ang solusyon para magkatrabaho sila? E di papasukin natin ng mga foreign investors. Pero paano papasok ang mga foreign investors kung nandyan pa rin yung mga 60-40 at ibang mga anti-foreign direct investment restrictions na nandyan sa loob ng saligang batas? Yun ang punto natin. Yan ang hindi naintindi ng marami mga tao eh. Yung, parang yung ibang mga politiko dyan, hindi nila gets eh.
Sabi ni Gerard Ruby Orion, hindi naman sila against, sana lang daw pinag-aralan muna daw, referring to foreign land ownership. Ito yung contention ng ating kaibigan na si Thinking Pinoy. Sana man daw ay binigyan ng panahon na pag-aralan. Ang hindi lang alam siguro ni RJ or ni Thinking Pinoy is that medyo matagal-tagal na rin talagang pinag-usapan to since 2016 nung nagkaroon ng idea ang presidente na maging part ng kanyang campaign promise ang pagbabago ng konstitusyon.
Since the 1990s pa to. Actually, 1990s pa to. This is very old already. Panahon pa ni FVR, pinag-uusapan na to. Nung si ERAP ang nag-take over, si ERAP, he actually launched also Concord, which was pushing for economic constitutional reform. And even the land ownership part was also talked about. And in time ni ERAP, he was saying, we need to allow foreign investors to own land.
Alam mo, alam mo ang problema talaga, Orion, talaga masyado tayong naniniwala sa negatibo kaagad. Alam mo bakit ba napapag-usapan every administration? Why do they always talk about, why does each administration, there's always a part during their time in power that they talk about constitutional reform or chacha.
Because there's something wrong. There's something wrong with the Constitution.
Something wrong. I think that is the big yun yung kumbaga, that's a big clue right there.
Parang ganito yan eh. Parang ikaw may kotse ka. Tapos yung aircon may mabaho. Parang may duda ka na may namatay siguro na na daga sa loob ng aircon. Kaya nabubulok na. Tapos naamoy na rin ng ibang tao.
Lahat ng mga katapos sa'yo yung naging may-ari nung sasakyan ay napansin rin yun.
Napansin na rin nila. Oo nga, may mabaho sa aircon ha. Ano yan? Pero hindi nila pinapaayos. Ay, wag yang gagalawin. Wag, dapat hindi ginagalaw yung aircon. Wag. Ganun eh, di ba? Yung point ko eh, na parang nandyan pa rin yung mabaho, hindi nyo pinatanggal, di ba? Putragis naman, ayusin nyo na yan. Matagal na yan eh.
Ang dami nating messages dito, Orion, mga comments on our topic. Yung pala, talagang this is a very important, moment in our history in the country.
Ano mo yung kay Rapunzel, yung sinasabi niya. So, ito, yung sa land, So pinag-usapan Rapunzel. Oh. So
Sabi niya, I
Rapunzel,
understand na desperate
oh,
na yung marami na sa kababayan natin
kailangan
dahil
talaga ng
unemployment.
trabaho. Oh,
Walang
ngayon,
job opportunities, pero hindi naman siguro pati yung property ownership kailangan isama.
so ito yung sinasabi ko, Rapunzel, sana maintindihan mo rin na ang ibang mga ekonomista, sinasabi nga nila na hindi naman ibig sabihin na kapag i-allow yung land, just in case ha, just in case, hindi ibig sabihin na kapag inalaw yung land ownership ng mga foreigner, ay kahit sinong foreigner pwede nang maging may-ari ng
Mm-mm.
hektaryang mga lupa ng Pilipinas. Hindi eh. Kasi ang sabi nga sinuggest nga ng ilang mga ekonomista na nandun sa hearing ng House, sabi nila mismo, kami, gusto namin na pwedeng maging may-ari ang iilang mga foreign investor. Pero piling-pili lang. Sabi nila, pwede naman natin gawa ng batas na hindi kahit sino pwedeng bumili ng lupa. Hindi kahit sinong foreigner pwedeng bumili ng lupa. Yun lamang mga foreigner na, for example, yung kanilang business ay ganito kalaki na ang dami-dami nilang Pilipinong nabibigyan ng trabaho, tapos mas nakakatulong sa kanila kung maging may-ari sila ng lupa. Ngayon, kung maging may-ari sila ng lupa, yung lupa na yan ay yun yung tatayuan nila ng kanilang pabrika. At siguro naman, sabi nga nila, may restriction pa yan na kapag binili mo yung lupa, agad-agad mong lalagyan na yan ng pabrika. Hindi yung parang may 5 years pa, 10 years pa. Hindi. Kinakailangan immediately pagkabili, immediate nagko-construct ka na. So, yun yung mga sinasabi. So, hindi kahit sino. So, wag kayo pagpapadala dyan sa mga wrong information, ha?
Tama.
Kasi ang mga Pilipino, pwede naman tayo maging may-ari ng lupa sa marami ibang mga bansa. So,
Ito,
ang
ito,
sabi nga ng ilang, may ibang tao na nga nagsabi, o pwede naman siguro natin gawan ng ganitong klaseng rules, no? Baka naman pwede natin gawin na ang mga mamamayan ng mga bansa na nagpapahintulot sa Pilipino na maging may-ari ng lupa ay pwede ring maging may-ari ng lupa sa Pilipinas. Parang reciprocity ang tawag.
mm-mm.
Ganon din ang batas ng South Korea at ng Taiwan ay ganyan. Kapag ang mga Amerikano pumunta ng Taiwan, pwedeng bumili ng lupa. Ang Amerikano pumunta ng South Korea, pwedeng bumili ng lupa. Ang Pilipino pumunta ng Taiwan o South Korea, hindi pwedeng bumili ng lupa kasi ang batas natin ay bawal sila na maging may-ari ng lupa sa
Wow.
atin.
Okay,
Yun ang nangyayari.
magandang point rin yun na yun.
Ah,
Um,
reciprocity.
James Huli Ganga, sabi niya, good evening guys, humirit na naman si Sara Ilago. Masama daw ang dulot ng tsatsya dahil pasista daw ang administrasyon. Mangungurakot lang daw. Buti wala nang masyadong naniniwala sa mga aktivista NPA. Naban ka ba sa FB lately, Orion?
Yes, naban ako lately. Naban ako ni
Coach
George.
Aguila with Orion. Sino si Coach Dave Aguila Orion? Kaibigan mo ba to?
Si Coach Dave Aguila, well, I haven't been able to add him up on Facebook, but he basically approached me saying he would like to discuss about constitutional reform. So we had a session recently, no? So I think there was just a few days ago, we had a session where we discussed constitutional reform. So Coach Dave Aguila, he is a proponent of intermittent fasting and low carb diet. So
Oh.
so he has a group na mga 2
Ganda.
million 2 million people in his group. So basically marami siyang followers. So ayun, we had a session and then he had a lot of his followers listening in to what I was saying.
Oh, cool. Nice.
So yun. So James, naban ako sa Facebook dahil si George na nagpasimuno ng away, nagpasimuno ng insulto nung gumanti ako sa kanya ng mga insulto at napakita ako sa lahat ng mga tao na tanga siya at ignorante siya, siya naman napikon. At in-unfriend ako, blinak ako, tapos rineport pa ako sa Facebook. Ayan, ganyan siya kapikon. Kumbaga, hindi niya kaya na yung kanyang ginagawa sa ibang tao ay gagawin din para sa kanya. Hindi niya kaya ang konsepto ng reciprocity or yung golden rule. Hindi niya naintindihan yan. Hindi niya naintindihan na kung ano yung pwede niyang gawin sa ibang tao ay pwede rin gawin sa kanya. Hindi niya ma-accept yun eh. Kaya niya ako pinaban. Yun. Si
Ito
George yun ha.
Si George.
Si George. Yun ang tunay na pangalan eh.
I find this very, very amusing, Orion. Sabi ni
That's his real name.
Jeremy Tiamsik, Hopefully sa BARM, once mawala ang 60-40, panigurado magiging mas mayaman pa ang region na yan
Yes,
sa
yes.
NCR at sa Luzon at Visayas. Alam mo yung BARM, Ryan, na pag-usapan natin to, na, ano, di ba,
Yung nasa
well,
Tagaytay tayo?
oo, yung BARM as a very important experiment,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
na I think that will also push the narrative that we need to change the political system of our government as well. Kasi
Yes,
BARM
yes.
is currently also using
Parliamentary.
a parliamentary system, diba? They have ministers,
Yes,
and
yes.
I think if this
May
works, and
question time pa sila, ganyan.
hopefully it will, can set a precedent for future reforms. So guys, alam nyo, ngayon itong pinapag-usapan natin na economic chacha or economic constitutional reform, changes in the economic provisions of the Constitution. This is just our appetizer. This will just start
Yeah.
kumbaga, a slew of reforms that are needed. And we are not only pushing for economic reforms. I think this will just open the door for mas profound changes that we need in our government right now. Kayo, nag-iisip, pero kayong feeling nyo, kaduda-duda yung ating mga kongresista. Marami sa atin, merong very strong yung suspicion natin towards um, our lawmakers, which, is, I can't blame our people if they have suspicions because of the history, di ba, of our
No, actually,
political.
a lot of it is not even anymore history. A lot of it is actually fake news. A lot of it is the false narratives that the oligarchs have been peddling using Pinoy mass media. That's the truth. And even Lee Kuan Yew was talking about that this is how Philippine media has been. It has always been controlled by the oligarchs and even by nefarious politicians to mislead and confuse ordinary Filipinos
So,
into forgetting about what are the real priorities that we should be focusing on.
pero
That's the
Orion,
truth.
hindi ka naniniwala na we have a very corrupt system that even the
We have a corrupt system. We have a
PRRD
corrupt
is
system.
having a hard time actually fixing for the last 5 years because it's so.
Yeah, it's true. It's corrupt, but that's because of the system that we have now. If that system could have, if we were able to change that, then we should have at least lessened it. But we weren't able to because we are also not allowing the process of change to happen. Because para bang we're chasing our own tail. That's the problem with the Philippines. We're chasing our own tail. Parang hindi tayo makalabas dun sa parang vicious cycle
Mm,
na galit tayo sa sitwasyon pero ayaw naman natin baguhin ang sitwasyon kasi yung mga taong inaatasan natin na baguhin ang sitwasyon hindi naman natin tinatrust, which I think is really ridiculous and stupid because
yeah,
we actually have control over these people because they are the ones we vote for. We vote them into office. So we have the ability to vote them out. That's the truth. In fact, we have the ability to influence our congressmen by telling them, by the way, this is what we want you to do.
mm.
That's why merong website ang Congress, 'di ba? At saka pati Senado na nandun yung kanilang mga email address. We have to email them, we have to send letters to them, we have to visit them in their office and tell them what we need and what we want from them. That's their job. They're servant leaders. They're not just leaders. They're actually our servants. Yun yung tunay na trabaho ng mga legislator. Tagasunod sila sa atin sa mga kagustuhan natin. We have to tell them what to do. They don't tell us what to do. They're not in the executive branch. We tell them what to do. So we have to tell them, if you don't do these reforms, you're out. We don't want you. Ganun yung kasimple. We have
Well,
that control over them. The problem is, many Filipinos don't understand the concept of representative democracy. And even George doesn't understand that.
the problem, the one problem also that I see with how we perceive uh, um, our congressmen is we put them on a pedestal kasi we think they're. Uh, he said servant leadership. That's not how Filipinos think. They think if you're in a position of power that you're the one who's supposed to be served. That's the problem. Kaya we're always like, you know, we I know
Do you know why
we
that's the
get
situation?
easily swayed by
Yeah.
the position, by
Do
the
you, do you know
title.
why? Do you know why people are like that? Do you know why Filipinos are like that? Because so many Filipinos are poor. So
Yeah.
many Filipinos are so poor and unemployed because there are no jobs in the Philippines that they earn so little that they are so dependent on receiving help from the few people who have more than they. So those people who are in those positions, yung mga congressmen, senator, they try to be so obsequious. Oh, please sir, I adore you. Patulong naman ng konti diyan. Kasi ganun yung mindset nila.
Minsan,
Pero kung tayo ay nandun tayo sa first world na yung mga ordinaryong tao ay kumikita ng disente. Alam mo, first name basis ang tawag nila dun sa kanilang mga kongresista. Wala silang mga honorable, oy, senator. Wala silang pakialam. Hey,
yeah.
Joe. Hey, Joe. Hey, you know, in Australia, may isang, yung, during the bushfires in I think it was Sydney or somewhere,
Mm.
nagkaroon ng press conference yung prime minister with the media in an area, in a residential area that was not far from some of the bushfires. And so during that time, some of the media people were stepping on the flowers and some of the plants of this guy whose house is just in front. So this guy who was living there, he just came outside of his house. He said, hey guys, guys, I just recited that. Sabi niya, get off my lawn. You know, you're stepping on my plants. Stay away. Tapos sabi ni Scott Morrison, the prime minister said, hey guys, we gotta get off. We gotta, back off. So sabi niya, sorry. Gumanon siya. I mean, walang pakialam yung yung ordinaryong tao. Wala akong pakialam na ikaw prime minister ka. Ako taxpayer ako eh. Kaya nagiging ganyan yung mga tao dun sa mga rich countries. Kasi yung everybody earns a decent wage. So
Mm.
everybody can live a decent life. So you don't need to mapagkumbaba, oh sir, kailangan ko ng tulong nyo kasi yung anak ko na ospital, kailangan ng pera. Sa Pilipinas, ganyan lagi. Kasi ang daming tao, walang pera eh. Konti
Mm.
lang ang pera. So, lagi silang naghahanap ng oportunidad na magmakaawa doon sa mga medyo may pera. Sir, baka naman makakatulong kayo sa amin, sir, kasi yung nanay ko na ospital o whatever, you know. Yun yung nangyayari. Kasi ang baba ng sweldo ng mga tao sa Pilipinas dahil walang trabaho, dahil konti lang ang mga oportunidad. Kung dumami ang mga trabaho, kung dumami ang mga investor, mawawala yung ganyang sitwasyon. Tataas ang mga sweldo, ang mga tao magiging angat kumbaga taas noo. Hindi na magiging parang
sabi ni
laging mapagkumbaba.
sabi ni PRRD nung kanyang first ever SONA, 'di ba, nung
Uy,
2016?
stand tall. Huwag kayong pagganyan-ganyan. Gumagano siya, 'di ba? Sabi niya, huwag
Raise
kayong
the
Oo.
dignity of the Filipino worker. Yun ang
Oo.
kanyang objective. That napansin ko rin in Orion kahit sa Amerika, yung mga servers nila doon sa pag pumunta ka sa restaurant, very sila yung commanding. Can you
Commanding,
have
'di ba?
Hindi sila yung, sir, pwede kunin yung
Ay,
yung
sir,
platter,
Oo, wala.
di ba? Can you hand me your plate, please? Ganun lang, di ba? Yung parang,
Oo, yeah.
boss, merong walang yung parang, pantay-pantay tayo kahit waiter lang ako.
Pantay-pantay, pantay-pantay.
Pero sa Pilipinas, kung waiter ka, parang tingin mo sa sarili mo, mababa, or ano ka, or,
Yeah.
'di ba? Or gas boy ka, parang ang dating is porket nakasasakyan ka or ay abogado ka, doktor ka, dapat oy sir, bossing, ganyan kaagad ang dating natin sa mga tao na to, which adds to the inherent problem in our kumbaga societal structure, which permeates in government, na
Mm.
kahit sa gobyerno, ganun rin yung hierarchy masyadong importante. Ang tinatawag
Mm.
nating pati protocol, di ba, Orion? Mas importante pa yata protocol kaysa sa sa actual
Sa
substance or
substance.
objective, di ba?
Yun
Or
ang problema kasi
reform.
nga, it's permeated that way because of the kind of economic system we have. Because of our system na kakaunti lang ang may sapat na sweldo na parang masyadong takutin yung mga tao eh.
Mm.
Ako maybe you noticed when I was there in Tagaytay, parang wala akong pakialam sa mga ranggo-ranggo ng mga tao eh. Kasi matagal na ako sa Singapore eh. So, sa Singapore, especially sa expat community, kahit mga kainuman ko, mga matataas, mga direktor ng mga puti galing sa ibang bansa, wala silang pakialam. We're all equals here, Ryan. Wala silang paki.
Don't call me
So,
sir.
Walang
Sasabihin
sir.
sa'yo,
Oh, walang sir na yan. Puta na. First name basis.
first team
Tapos
basis.
ano, oo, tapos hey mate, ganyan sila yung mga syempre mga ano, Australiano, mga ibang puti diyan. Wala silang walang ano eh, walang yung mataas, mababa, walang ganoon eh.
Tsaka alam
Wala
mo,
silang
sa
inisip
tingin
ganyan.
ko, Ryan, magandang kung I know meron ring masamang impluensya yung ating mga naging colonial masters, so to speak, like Spain and the Americans when they came. But mostly the Spanish when they ruled the Philippines or we became a colony, medyo meron talaga yung class problem na tinatawag nating 'di ba? Uh, yung
Nagkaroon yeah,
yung
ito ang nangyari.
ah,
So sa Pilipinas nagkaroon nga ng ganyan kasi kakaunti lang yung mga Kastila, kakaunti lang yung mga businesses. Usually ang kaiisang Kastila na nakikita ng mga tao ay yung pare, yung
mm,
fraile o yung pare, siya lang yung mag-isa. Eh since yung fraile, syempre religious figure siya, ano siya, parang angat siya. So ganyan, yung magmamano-mano o ganyan, 'di ba? So parang hierarchical. But when Rizal and his friends, when they went to Spain,
mm,
when they went to Europe, iba yung nakita nila. Uy, parang kasi during that time, that was the Belle Epoque period, the time of the late 1890s na.
mm,
Sabi nila na parang equal, parang ano na nagiging ano na egalitarian yung society na parang wala na yung mga unequal na ano, yung ganon. That's one of the main things. I'll give you an example. In Spanish kasi in Spanish there are two kinds of words for you. Okay? You say tú meaning ikaw, which is a
mm,
very parang informal way of saying ano,
mm,
you. And then there is also the formal you, which is usted, which
mm,
is like saying, sino po sila? You're not saying,
mm,
sino ka
mm,
ba? You say,
mm, mm.
sino po sila?
Yeah,
So, parang third person mo, di ba? So,
formal,
in
respectful.
formal, di ba? Ngayon, in Spain, they no longer use usted so much. They very
Mm,
rarely use usted. They always
mm,
use tú. Tú
mm,
tienes algo, tú. They don't say usted. But
mm,
in Latin America, they still say usted all the time. Usted, usted,
mm,
usted,
mm,
usted. They
mm,
still say that because they came from, just like the Philippines, they came from a very parang feudalistic situation. Whereas Spain, during the time that all these other colonies had become independent na, and Spain was being influenced by the Enlightenment and the Belle Epoque and all these mga industrialization that happened in Europe, parang nagbago yung social hierarchy na naging egalitarian. So nung dumating sina Marcelo H. del Pilar, sina Graciano Lopez Haina, sina Jose Rizal, yung mga Luna brothers, pumunta sila doon na ano sila, parang wow,
yeah.
ang tingin ng mga puti sa atin ay equal. Parang that's why they said, kailangan natin ng ganitong sistema sa Pilipinas.
Mm.
Yun yung rason na ginawa nila yung reforma nila. Kasi namulat sila na pwede palang ganito. So why not we do this in the Philippines also? That's what they saw when they were there in Europe.
Yung it's funny you mentioned Rizal because most of his writings were about inequality, di ba? About the class wars na tinatawag natin, the great divide between the rich and the poor, which up to now is still kumbaga applicable, no? Yung mga sinasabi ni Rizal before. Kasi
Mm.
hanggang ngayon, we are in a system where that's reinforced. Um, and sorry, pero talagang kahit na anong sabihin niyo, alam natin na may problema tayo. Poverty is a problem, and so many things that we can discuss right now that we need to change first. Political problems natin, yung mga political issues. But it has to start somewhere, and it has to start with the most basic thing, which is ang saligang batas natin, the Constitution, na reflects, a darker part of our history. Hindi na, tapos na yung martial law eh. Hindi na natin that's just reactive to what happened during martial law. It's a brand new century or millennia, 'di ba, Orion? Hindi na tayo,
Indeed.
we're hanging on to the past. That's the problem. Actually, we have a very interesting message here from Gerard NP. I once encountered a lawyer who insists on addressing him as attorney despite of not availing his legal services. Narcissistic clusterfuck. Sabi ni, di ba? Isipin na lang ninyo, ganito na lang. Yung mga kongresista natin, hindi naman sinasabi kong lahat. Sa tingin mo, sino sa kanila ang okay lang na hindi mo sila tawaging congressman? Di
Mhm.
ba? They don't-
Actually, I'm in contact with several of them, and like for example, si David Suarez. For
Hmm.
example, he said, "Uy, Orion, just call me just call me JJ. Huwag mo na
Ah,
akong tawaging congressman."
con, con,
Because I talk to him a lot because I give him a lot of yung mga documents namin, yung mga research documents na napulot namin from the internet sa yung mga PhD authored na ganyan, yung mga hinalungkat talaga namin sa marami mga website ng ibang mga university sa labas ng bansa.
hmm.
Kinuha namin. So, nakita ko, uy, uh, JJ, maganda gamitin to. So, binigyan ko siya ng maraming mga materials, mga information, which I'm sure he passed on to his colleagues. And that's why some of the stuff that was mentioned are very familiar to correctors. Like yung mga OECD rankings na yan,
Hmm.
kami yung nagpasimuno niyan eh. kami ang nag kami ang nagpapasimuno niyan sa research namin sa correct eh. So, so that yeah.
Isang viewer natin sa one of the groups that are watching us, sabi niya, at uulitin na lang natin, Orion, kasi malapit na rin matapos yung ating programa. Sabi niya, basta ako, sabi ni Jean Dedicatoria, hindi payag sa ownership. Ang dapat gawin ay ayusin ng batas para hindi basta-basta ma-reverse ang mga leasing agreement ng foreign investor. Um, Alam
Hindi,
mo,
sa akin kaya nga
yeah.
ako para sa akin nga for the first para lang mapasa na itong particular reform na ito ngayon, ahora mismo. O sige, parang sabi ko nga, okay lang na hindi hindi muna kasama yung land ownership. So parang for next time na lang 'yan, 'di ba? Parang para lang mapasa natin yung pinaka-importante ngayon, which is yung foreign direct investments, hindi naman land 'yun eh, investments, para mapasa yan lahat. O edi sige, lagyan na lang muna natin ng ban. Pero in the future, we need to be open to understanding that just because we allow foreign investors to own land or foreigners to own land, it doesn't mean na magiging may-ari sila ng buong Pilipinas. Kasi pwede pa rin natin lagyan ng maraming restrictions yan para hindi kahit sinong foreigner ay makakapag may-ari ng lupa. At kung magiging may-ari man sila ng lupa, hindi naman sobrang laki ang kaya nila. Siguro lote nga lang, mga hanggang sa isang malaking mansion lang, hanggang doon lang. Pero ektarya, hindi pwede. Asyenda, hindi pwede. Lupain na marami, hindi pwede.
Ito
Ganun
maganda
lang.
po. Ito maganda comment ni Jerome Tan. Question po. At tanong pala, anong mas bagay na setting? Federalism with loose the Mindanao, Barm, Cordillera regions, or federalism with 15 or more regions? Is our country's multi-ethnic reality a greater reason to pursue federalism than our country's archipelagic setting? You know what? You know why I find this question very interesting? Because over a month ago, when I had a conversation with Congressman Pulong, alam mo
Mm.
sabi niya, Bay,
Mm.
nga naman gina-push ninyo, why are you pushing for 13 states? Why don't you just simplify it and make it Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, and of course the autonomous regions like Cordillera and bakit kailangan 13 states? Yun ang sabi niya. Sabi ko, that makes sense kasi we're not like the United States of America that we have so much land area to begin with. It's not like what do you think, Orion? Kasi do you think that makes sense na
Ako,
hindi
it's
na
like this. What makes sense is we ask the different provinces
Hmm.
on how do they want to form the regions. So we can actually learn from what Spain did because Spain did the same thing. Back when 1978 when namatay na si
Yeah, you
1970s
have
namatay itong
the Basque
si
ba? The Basque region ba yun? Yung
no so just wait namatay si Francisco Franco no And then Francisco Franco, when he died, no, ang dami ngayon nagkaroon ng need to come up with a new system that would accommodate all the diverse points of view in Spain. So they decided, let's come up with a system where the provinces are allowed to form together based on their historical similarities. So sila nang bahala. Let them decide to come to join together. So yung mga areas na Basque speaking ganyan, nagsama-sama sila. They formed the Basque country. The Galician speaking
That's where Barcelona is, right?
provinces. No, that's Catalonia, where
Catalunya pala,
Barcelona
Yeah.
Barcelona is in Catalonia. Bilbao and San Sebastian are in the Basque country.
Okay.
And then
Tama.
Santiago de Compostela is in Galicia. And then you have all these Cordoba, Sevilla, and Huelva, Malaga, all these other places in
So Spain
Andalusia.
is practically almost like a federal type of.
They're actually they are a federation in all but name. So they formally pronounce themselves or announce themselves to the world to be unitary, but they function like a federalist system. So pinaano nila yung mga provinces nila, sinabihan nila, o kayo nang bahala magsama-sama. So there were some cases, for example, like halos magkakapareho sila ng salita, pero let's say there was one province, Murcia, which did not join with Andalusia. Although salita nila pareho, culturally the same, they felt a little different because medyo may affinity rin tayo with Valencia eh. So we'll just be a separate province that is our own region. So that's what happened to them. So they parang bahala kayo. And I think that's the way we should do it in the Philippines. Kumbaga, tanungin natin yung mga provinces, gusto ba ninyo na gano'n na lang, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, or gusto nyong by region, or paano ba ninyo gustong gawin? Kayo nang bahala.
Paano, Ryan, kung alam mo naman na very creative rin tong ating opposition when stating their case against a federal form of government. Sasabihin nila, look, we are diverse as it is, but if you want to sort of dissolve this union because we are so diverse, baka magkanya-kanya na tayo. Visayas will be its own country. The Mindanao will be its own country. And
but that's not federalism. That's not federalism.
Gamitin nila yung example ng Spain kasi Spain, ginawa nating example ngayon, Catalonia nga gustong maging independent from Spain.
Yeah, but it didn't happen. And it's not going to happen. It didn't happen. It didn't succeed. It's not going to succeed. So actually, in fact, there's a huge number of Spanish politólogos or political scientists who say that now with this development, now is the time that they should just decide to go for full federalism. So parang imbis na, kasi right now nandun sila sa parang we are a decentralized unitary state. That's what they are. That's what they call themselves. When they decide to be full-fledged federal, then malilesen yung rason ng Catalonia na umalis. Kasi parang magkakaroon na sila ng sapat na autonomiya, which before hindi pa ganun kalakas yung kanilang autonomy. So yun yung parang that's one of the arguments going on in Spain right now as regards federalism. Sinasabi, i-federalism na lang, itodo na lang natin yung federalism. Ganun din sa UK. Kasi ang UK, hindi sila federal. Sila, ang tawag dyan unitary na devolved sila. Ngayon, ang sinasabi ng ilang mga political scientists dun sa UK na para mawala na yung issue ng separatism ng Scotland, i-federal na natin talaga ang UK. Itodo na natin na federal. So yun yung marami nagsasabi na para mawala na yung mga ganyang mga gulo-gulo na yan, i-federal nyo na lang talaga. Yun.
Ako ninyo.
Sorry.
I think God was somewhere else when the typhoon hit. Puro patay na sa dalan. Hantod karon.
Sa Yolanda.
Mga tao wala elektrisidad, way pagkaon, way tubig, na ang tanang patay na asdalan, ang mga tao gatan-aw nila sa langit. I really do not know. The president had been there. Maroas was there.
Grabe, no? It wasn't too long ago, Ryan, that video sort of like catapulted him to
That's
the
yeah.
presidency.
That's what catapulted Rodrigo Roa Duterte to become a household name among people who are outside of the Visaya-speaking areas.
Yes.
Being Visayan myself, I had already heard of Duterte before, and having lived in a uh, in a boarding house, kailang balay nila mikmok sa una
Mm,
dito sa Sevierville, dito ko
yeah.
gapuyo sa una puros madabawin niyo akong kauban. Oh, sige ko kadungo ka na bahin ni kuan. See, I was always hearing
Yeah.
stories about Duterte. So that's why I know who Duterte is and was back then already. Kay nana ko ang balay nga akong gipuyuan, puros man mga kuan, taga Davao. Eh nakapunta man ako diyan lagi ba. Ganyan lagi yan sila bay, gisabi niya sa akin ba.
What a way to end our discussion tonight, Orion, with that little tidbit from the past, parang a blast from the past from the president. We have to remember, what this person is all about. Kasi we can't waste this opportunity. He sort of like symbolizes the reform that the country really needed, and it's since he is still there, and we have like a few months to go, no, we should fulfill the promise that he gave the Filipino people,
Exactly.
and we should really push for the reforms that are needed, which includes changing the constitution, or improving the constitution that we have right now. Any last words, Orion, before we go? I mean, sabi ni Gab
So,
Rodriguez, this could be a possible thing, could be a solution to continuity that the president is espousing for changes. Run, Sarah, run.
basta ako I want to hear from her. I
Hmm.
want to hear from her na yung mga reforma na sinisimulan ng tatay niya talagang committed siya doon. I need to hear that. I need to hear that. Kasi yun naman ang rason talaga kung bakit tayo magsusupport ng sinong gusto natin kasi para yung reforma mapatuloy na, 'di ba? Yun naman talaga yun
So, thank you guys for watching. No, let me just do a quick roll call for our viewers tonight. They're listening all from different parts of the world, Orion. So we have to thank our OFWs. Without you, I mean, things could have been a lot worse for the Philippines in terms of our economy, because of your hard-earned dollars. We're keeping the economy afloat. Di ba, Ryan? Kahit papano, kahit na maraming nawalan ng trabaho abroad, na bumalik na sa Pilipinas, meron pa rin tayong good enough number of Filipinos who have work abroad and who are sending the dollars by the billions to keep us. So you are definitely the modern day hero. So thank you so much for watching us tonight on Istoryang Futbolero. So gusto ko lang pasalamatan si Lawrence, of course, si Ivy, watching all the way from Oman, Francis, Ortega, Adrian Tepes, si Garrett Asonsa, and Cecil Giselle, Edith, Rockford, Jeremy, Adrian, Aaron, Edith Fuchs, also si Paul, Lorimar, Rapunzel, si AZ, si Jerome. Ang daming nanonood ngayon, Orion, sa ating programa ng Istoryang Futbolero. So
Oo nga
maraming kay Jin, si kay Rosie, kay Zednare, LP, Noy, Delfino, Rosie Adam, Bebs, L, Harriet, and C, si Sigbin. Sigbin. That's funny.
Sigbin.
Thank you guys for watching.
Kangaroo.
Hindi pa tapos yung laban natin. Talagang tuloy-tuloy itong ating sana ang Senado ay maliwanagan rin at matuloy itong kanilang pinaplanong constitutional reform, and sana mabigyan ng ng chance ang ating mga kababayan sa isang referendum by 2022. Imagine a chance for you to really pave the way for extraordinary, profound changes, no, Orion, in the country's
Indeed,
history.
indeed, indeed. Ito pala si Edith Fuchs, parang ano yata, kamag-anak ko yata ito.
Ganun ba?
Parang taga-asa
Nice.
man ka, Edith. Dumdum man nila siya. So,
Nice.
murag kamag-anak din ako kanang kuan bante din ako na siya.
Ayan ang undangi, banata daw si si
Si
Kiko
George.
Ryan.
Si
No?
Kiko.
Kiko na
Si
lang.
Kiko, si Kiko lagi. Kay mo
Kay,
kana mo
kana ang magbuot sa Senado kay siya ang
patangtango na unta na siya, giatay na lang na. Patangtang na lang na siya. Actually, kung unsay gibuhat sa una ni Manny Pacquiao kang kang dilema, angay na buhaton karon. Nga iyang buhaton na niya kang kang Kiko, giatay na lang. Sus.
Oh, guys,
Tanawa lang, tanawa ra gud na si Kiko, unsay gibuhat niya. Si Kiko, ang tanan mga halos yung tanan sa mga giimbitar niya dito sa hearing sa Senado, puros ka na mga antay. So, halos tanan imong madunggan, hindi, I am not against reform, but now is not the time. I don't like it because it is against, puros I don't like, I don't want, I don't agree. Puros ingon ana.
Nauma na ba tong second hearing?
I'm not sure when's the next hearing from the Senate, no? Pero main na lang na ay siguro
the
ikaw
first
nito.
one was for procedural, di ba? And then the second one is about substance. So that's more important. And if any of you guys know if they have actually done it, wala pa man siguro. I haven't heard anything about the second hearing on constitutional reform or amendments presided over by our good friend Kiko Pangilinan, who might be a candidate for the presidency. Who knows, right? Baka
Yeah,
sila,
tayo na lang, di na madaog. Uy, madaog na. Siguro, napa na sa chance sa una kung ang iyang gamiton nga pangalan kay Kiko Cuneta. Sa una.
sige ba,
Gugba naman sa si Sharon.
magpatuli ka usab kung mamudaog siyang presidente. Anyway, guys, don't forget the pandemic is not over. Please stop listening to or ang tawag nito, sharing fake news on the vaccines. Have faith in the government. They're trying their best to make sure that we get back to normal or get back to how it was in our before the pandemic. So make sure to follow the basic guidelines of the government. We have a special guest, Orion, on Monday. Si Dr. Beverly Ho of the DOH will be on Istoryang Futbolero on Monday. So if you have any questions about policies or about what the DOH is doing, that will be a perfect time for you to watch. Please do share our video tonight kasi yung mga iba nating kasama natulog na, baka pwede gusto nilang panoorin bukas yung ating programa ngayong gabi at marami silang ma-pick up at sila yung makasama natin sa ating laban na baguhin ang konstitusyon ng ating saligang batas ng ating bansa. Di ba, Orion? So don't forget.
Yes. So puntahan po ninyo ang correctphilippines.org, okay? Correctphilippines.org. Marami po kaming mga articles diyan, marami po kaming mga resources diyan at hindi kami lang ang nagsulat niyan. Marami sa mga resources namin ay mga sinulat ng mga sikat at tanyag na PhD, mga profesor na galing sa mga pinakamagaling na mga universidad sa buong mundo. So, yun, marami po kaming pruweba na may talaga, may basis talaga ang mga sinasabi namin.
And meanwhile, habang ginagawa ninyo yan, huwag na rin yung kakalimutan yung mga guidelines natin, yung ating guidelines na galing sa Department of Health na magsuot ng mask, distansya ng 1 metro, maghugas ng kamay at alamin ang totoong impormasyon. Huwag po tayong magkalat ng fake news. Di ba, Orion? Huwag natin pinapakinggan yung mga kabila dyan, yung mga kaliwa at mga nasa oposisyon. Tama na po yung fake news at saka yung mga troll na banat ng banat en masse. So Ryan, have a good weekend. Thank you so much for joining us again this Friday on
Thanks, Ron.
Futbolero. Good night, guys. See you. Bye.